All right, good evening. Finally, we were able to get the audio issues figured out. Bobby's working on something in the background to get himself started, so at least we're online. I saw you guys were having some fun with the chat, so I've been watching it the whole time. That was kind of fun for me. So let's see here. There we go. Perfect. Okay, cool. So let me grab the comments here a little bit. If you can't hear me for whatever reason, let me know. My audio wasn't having too much of an issue. I just wanted to make sure Bobby could hear me from his side of it, but let's go from here. So let me know in the chat there if you can hear me okay, and then when he's ready, we're going to be good to go. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to go through the chat here. So we got Amit joining us. We got Jeremy joining us. What I like is that I've had that in the description for a little while. It's like, and that's always in play. There's always the possibility that I may just start sorting cards, and that's what's going to happen. So we go, what is a decoy? I think if you go into the decoy is basically what happens. If you take a Wayne Gretzky 1979 80 card, that is a decoy. It means it's basically worthless. You can throw it out. So that's a decoy card. Get rich off Greg Jeffrey card. Goes without saying. Good evening, Paul. Is this the place to get Ziggy Puffy cards? No, you've got to get all your Ziggy Puffy through Cardboard Culture, the official podcast of Ziggy Puffy cards. Here we discuss Ziggy Puffy cards in the Ziggy Puffy card market because that's critical. But really, the Ziggy Puffy card epicenter starts, it begins, and ends wherever a meet is. So that's generally Cardboard Culture. So that's probably where you want to go. So let's go here. Nope, no pint of brew yet. I may at some point refill. We're gonna take it by ear. So I'm just quickly going through the rest of the chat here, getting caught up. So let's go here. Feisty-ish. I've seen worse. Let's take a look here. Going through. I hear you can buy Ziggy Puffy rigs by the pound. I don't know about that. That's pretty high-end stuff, man. It's pretty high-end stuff. I don't know if you can do that. Yeah, we actually did. And by that I mean Bobby gave it a try and we were able to get it going. It's basically one of those things where I have a lot of fun when it comes to the audio thing, is that it's not difficult to diagnose an audio problem. It's really two connections, because the issue wasn't, I could actually hear him fine. The issue was that he was going in and trying to go, but basically he wasn't hearing a word I was saying, but he had the headphones in, switches the plug to the other side, and it fits and it works fine. So what are you going to do? Yeah, certain level of service. Yeah. Well, you know, the troubleshooting service is operating as normal. Been a little run down this Sunday, but we're trying to get caught up here. So good evening to Jeff. It's always about Puffy. I like the branding. Hockey guy. That's critical. All right, good stuff. So good evening to Yannick. Good evening to Patrick. Good evening to Boston Kid. I'm almost caught up here. Ziggy Puffy talk. Always. That is the inside joke. And you can ask Cardboard Culture all about it. No, actually, Bobby's trying out a new microphone. He's got one of those Yeti microphones, not the regular one, but there's a variant of the Yeti microphone. He was trying it. And it's been, the problem with using a Windows machine is that Windows, it might be plug and play, but the microphones don't really work plug and play. So it's one of those things that's like, yeah, it sort of works. You'd think you'd be able to just plug in the headset and you're good to go. Not necessarily. Not all the time. What are you gonna do? All right, so there we go. All right, I'm pretty much caught up on the pretty much all caught up here. Seems a bit redundant to me. You don't really need both of those, but anyway. All right, and good evening to Justin. So there we go. Chat all caught up. Perfect. All righty. So while Bobby's getting himself situated, he's actually in the other screen there. I'll put him on once he's ready to go. He's going to get himself ready. But in the meantime, first thing, I wanted to chat a little bit about it. I wanted to play off of the... I made the video regarding the Ken Golden equity kind of infusion, we'll say. So a $40 million investment from a large group of investors, including Mark Cuban, Timbaland, Mark Wahlberg, Kevin Durant, Deshaun Watson, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A whole bunch of people. Now, initially, my first thoughts about it, I wanted to kind of think about it a little bit more afterwards. So first, I wanted to chat with the first thing. And then I wanted to kind of continue from there. So I see Boston Kid's comment here. Let me grab it. Yeah, he's definitely in the bullpen. He's getting himself warmed up. So let me just see Boston Kid's point here. With card prices sky high, would it even be worth attending Chicago even if he had this year, if you can't have the buying power? here's the thing. So when it comes to the national, I'm of two minds on this. I'm still dubious they're even going to do it. Well, I think they'll try, but we'll see. We'll find out in short order. I think it's going to be a very busy, if they do, I think it's going to be one of the busiest nationals ever. But I'm back to my original refrain. If you want to buy a high-end rookie of like a name player, then no, it's not worth attending because it's probably going to be pretty expensive. It's going to be full. It's going to be wall to wall if, it goes down. But if you're collecting pretty much 95% of everything else, I don't really think it's going to be much of an issue. Now, the question really is, are a lot of the dealers going to want to carry the more regular inventory that's still kind of in normal prices? Because that's the thing. We look at the high-end stuff that is going for record prices, and they are. They're going for the record prices. If you're in the market for 52 Topps Mantle, probably not a good time. You're in the market for the Gretzky rookie, probably not a good time. A LeBron James or, any of those high-end players and that are getting the record prices, maybe not a good time. But if you're buying a 6-year card of John LeClair, I'm just picking a name out at random here, you're probably not going to notice the difference. You really won't. If you're collecting a regular player, if you're not collecting Connor McDavid's high-end stuff, probably you're fine. I'll be honest, you can probably find a lot of Connor McDavid cards unless you want the high end. If you want the high end, you're probably going to have to look. You're going to have to really look. And it's probably going to be priced accordingly. All you really have to do is just look at eBay. If you're not looking at something high end, what you're going to discover probably is that a lot of the prices are around what you'd expect, give or take. Some of the stuff, obviously, the stuff that is the hottest will go for top dollar. But everything else, I don't think you're going to find. I think you're still going to find your bargain bins. I still think you're going to find your dollar bins and stuff like that. It'll still be out there. There will be some dealers who will still have it. But like I said, it's going to be so busy. It's just going to be a matter of if you're willing to wade through the crowds. If, again, it goes off. Oh, with all this, with the assumption that it goes off like normal. So that would be kind of my take on that piece. Now, relating to the, like I said, relating to the golden thing. Oh, and Bobby, nod if you're good to go on your end. Perfect. All right, so I'll bring him in here. Good evening, Bobby. All right, so right now, let's see. Go talk again.
Why don't I turn that on?
That works a little bit better. Now you're good. Now I can hear you.
The switch does work, yes.
Yeah, yes. That's right. That's a fact, Justin. That's a fact. So all I was going to say was I'm just going to fill in the blanks here with the golden thing. And if you want to chime in, Bobby, you're more than welcome.
Sure.
But all I was going to add in was originally I wanted to focus on kind of the group that was investing. My thought process was $40 million sounds good. But at the same time, like in the realm of, getting capital like that, not a big deal. Especially for the amount of people we're talking about. Kevin Durant, Mark Cuban. For these guys, especially combined. Combined, it's chump change for most of them. Yeah, it is. However, I think the more interesting thing is once I took the first part and then I expanded and I said, let me sit back and think about it some more and let me hear what Golden himself says on his Instagram Live. That's where you get a little more information. That's kind of what I wanted to see and what I wanted to hear. And once I got a chance to hear that part of it, it played into kind of what I thought. It played into what I was thinking about a little bit more. And I'm actually going to play a clip, not very long, just a couple of seconds, from the Instagram Live that I think gives a little more insight into the part that I was interested in, because Golden talked about the investment. He talked about that he gave up some equity for it, but he is, I believe, still the highest single shareholder, which makes a lot of sense. With all those people, it'd be broken up into various pieces. But I think a lot of the investment is going to go into the technology side of things. And if it's going to the technology side of things, that means they're going to focus on that platform that he had alluded to multiple times. And then he elaborated just a little bit more in the Instagram Live, which I thought was interesting. So let me quickly grab this comment here. The Default C says, I think the National would be good if you're looking to flip or sell your collection. Probably. If you've got some liquid stuff, I'm fairly confident that you could probably make a deal. Now, if you're looking for the absolute top dollar, maybe somebody will accommodate you, but they're probably intending to flip it themselves, so they're probably going to want to have some room. But I guess if you have really liquid stuff, you're probably going to have an easier time getting pretty good money, especially comparatively to a normal national. Now, real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if this works. I'm going to try this myself. I've got a video file here that I'm going to play. And actually, let me do it this way.
There we go.
Yeah, we're going to give it a try. We're going to give it a try here. So let me minimize this. And we're going to try sharing the screen here. And let's see if this works. Can I do an application window? Yes, I can. Okay, I'm going to try this and see if the audio works this way. I think you can. I wanted to cue it up to a certain section. Let me try this. I know which section I want to cue it up to. I think what I like, though, is because we saw that the video can play, but I got to make sure I cue it up to the right spot. Okay, so I know where I want to cue it up to. So let's try that again. I'll do video file. Still learning how to use this thing properly because this is a new feature for them. Although I like it.
They loaded up a few new features lately, haven't they?
Hey, everybody.
So I got control of it, so that's good. And I can cue it up to the section that I want.
Emoc well.
What's that?
Off. I can't read the shirt. It's backwards.
Yeah. Unfortunately, on Instagram, everything is always flipped.
Really?
I actually had the ability. I actually had the ability on mine to flip it back the other way, but it doesn't let me. I don't think it lets me share the screen and do the audio. It lets me do it on a tab, and it lets me play the video. But I'd rather have control over it myself. But anyway, this is going to be around the spot we want here.
Something. So the opportunity is going to be this. Imagine if you were buying something for $500,000 or $50. And imagine that took place where one giant center, you buy from Amazon, Amazon's going to ship you. You buy from Golden's going to ship you. Period. No matter how big we get, Golden is going to ship you. In addition, we are going to make sure that everybody who is bidding has the money to pay for what they're buying. Makes sense. Don't want somebody without any credit to bid $750,000 on a card. If you're getting, here I go.
All right. He's got plenty of time for a shameless self-promotion on his own time. We got the idea. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop this off. There we go. It's kind of cool. I still like the feature. It just needs a little bit of work, a little bit of refinement to get it just right. But I do like the fact that it allows you to do it. So hopefully you guys were able to hear that okay? You were able to hear the audio from Ken as he was talking through his piece?
Perfectly, yeah.
Perfect.
I have the $50, not the $750,000.
Yeah. The thing, though, is, so there were a couple of pieces, though, that were critical there. Number one, he emphasized in the Instagram Live that some of that money, now, whatever configuration is going to be, but anyway, it's an infusion of cash. That's important. That's important. That infusion of cash then lets them expand the platform because he's been alluding to this platform change a little bit already for a while. But increasing the platform to make it more capable of accepting a broader range of things, including at the lower price point, which he referenced in that clip. That's why I included that piece. But then the other piece he's talking about, he's basically talking about combining three things. Getting more of a increased platform presence with even lower thresholds, not like thousands of dollar card necessarily, even all the way down to the $50 card range, which he's talking about there. Everything is going to be graded, though. That's not in the clip, but he always talks about it has to be a graded card, which makes sense, especially for the type of business they're trying to do there. Yeah. So he's not trying to steal all the thunder of eBay, but that would potentially leave a lot of room for him to take a lot of market share from eBay if people came onto his platform.
Especially the high end.
Exactly. But the second piece that's critical there is they're talking about basically a fulfillment model, which is what Golden does now. Basically, you would send in the cards and they would run the auction and then it ships directly from Golden. So it's basically a fulfillment model combined then with pre-qualified buyers, which removes a lot of the returns and a lot of that component of it, which could good features. As a seller, you don't have to deal with the hassle of shipping it. You don't have to deal with the hassle of, oh, what if somebody bids it up and then doesn't pay, stuff like that. So that could be a compelling offering for some folks. Again, we have to see what that ends up looking like. Number one, we got to see what the platform looks like because they're going to have to make changes. The current platform's not going to be able to handle that. So it would have to be some change, big time changes. Secondly, we'd have to see what that would look like from the perspective of what it's going to look like for people who are actually trying to use it. What's the cost? Even if it's a lower priced card, percentage wise, is it the same? Is it a lower percentage? Stuff like that too. That's all important. So that's kind of a question that would be open-ended as well. So there's a lot there in order to dissect as we go forward, as we get to hear more details of what exactly that entails. But it's interesting in a way, but I think that's going to be the big story going forward. The 40 million is almost kind of like, yeah, great. That's like step one in figuring out what's going to happen. So looks like Bobby was having some connection issues there. I noticed he froze. So let me grab a couple of these comments I noticed here. Yep. That's right. Exactly. Yep. So I'm glad we were able to add that in there. Cars can be a case too as long as they're pack pulled from the product. Okay. That's fair enough, Steve. I hadn't caught that piece, but if that's the case, that's that expands on it a little bit more. But I think the big takeaways right now are that he did take a couple of pot shots at eBay, which I kind of appreciate. I do enjoy Golden's audacity from time to time. It is kind of fun. Although the name dropping gets to be a bit much, it's kind of funny. But I do enjoy it for what it is. As far as marketing and performance is concerned, he does know how to promote and how to get eyeballs on his product. So that's a thing. But as we got a little bit more of it in that Instagram live, the big thing I was curious about that started to get filled in the blanks of, and I kind of suspected that was the direction they were going, was I was curious to see if they would continue down the path of this new platform, whatever it's going to end up being or whatever it's going to look like. That was my curiosity going into all of this. And that's where we're at now. And I'm not sure what that's going to end up looking like, but I am genuinely curious. So it's one of those things where, okay, let's see what you end up doing with it. I don't think it's a direct competitor to eBay per se, although there's a lot of potential market share they could steal from eBay, because depending on what the fee structure is, that's really a big thing. Because if the fee structure is really high, on a $50 card, 20% is going to eat up a lot of, a $10 charge is quite a bit. But then again, you don't have to deal with the shipping. There could still be some appeal. I got to really see what that kind of offering looks like. And then also to see, like any other sports card related thing, the second you start to scale up, you're going to have the personnel. You're going to have the background and the infrastructure. That's where, again, that investing in the technology could be a big thing. Can your platform hold up to the additional volume? Can you hold up to the additional, the additional issues that may bring about? Everybody loves good old-fashioned pot shots. It's kind of fun. Good evening, Mason. But yeah, no, I understood what you meant. I got it. It's all good. But it is kind of interesting. It did at least leave. It answers some of the questions I kind of had and confirmed some of my suspicions. And it did make for an interesting follow-up to the announcement itself, which I figured it would be. I figured it was an opportunity for him to kind of hold court, which he did. If you do check it out, it is on Ken Golden's Instagram if you want to check it out. He also kind of talks to Timbaland for like a minute. Basically, Timbaland was one of the, in addition to being an investor, he was also one of the purchasers of one of the Jordan rookies. And it was a really brief conversation as pertaining to that, which I found kind of funny. And then it just kind of went through a little bit, and he ended up, again, his job is right now to keep talking up the business, to keep making sure eyeballs are on what they're doing. And with the celebrity investment to go along with the big infusion of cash, again, we'll see if that's round one. There may be additional rounds if they want to keep growing it further. That's going to be part of it. Exactly, Ed. That's how you got to play it out. 4 sharp corners newly in accepting consignments. It wouldn't surprise me. The consignment business on eBay is kind of a big thing right now. I think a lot of folks are getting increasingly frustrated with dealing with eBay's hassles directly. Now, the reason why I care about stuff like this, in addition to the fact it's interesting, is just something to talk about. The other reason that I'm interested is also that the question becomes, what is the response of eBay? What ends up being what do they do in response to at least a potential partial competitor? Because I think there's plenty of volume that eBay will still be able to do. I don't think even if Ken Golden tried to go down to $1 and went away from just graded stuff. Number one, I don't think they could ramp up to that level. I don't think they want millions of listings. I don't think that's the goal. I do think they want to expand their capacity so that they're not just relying on necessarily having $1 million cards all the time, although obviously it's great for business to have $1 million cards and record sales and all that. But you do want to have a little bit of volume as well. So it's one of those things where you want to be able to have the option of being able to make some money on that quote unquote lower end to be able to scale up a little bit your operations and not just be this consigner that only deals with the high end exclusively. You want to be able to leave yourself in a position where you've got more of the spectrum covered. Yeah, I agree with Ed. If you're selling high end cards, not only deal with the buyer, but also avoid getting a 1099. Yep. So it's one of those things where if you're able to offer that kind of a service where you don't have to be completely white glove treatment. I don't think you're going to get the full white glove treatment on $50 cards. But if you can make it a little more convenient, where somebody can take a card they may not necessarily want to go through the trouble, like for $50, it would be difficult for me to justify creating an eBay listing for it just because of the additional hassles of having to, all right, so now I got to go to the post office, I got to ship this out, and considering how slow the mail is, I might want to put tracking on it, which means I'm going to charge for tracking, which means the buyers might be less interested on a $50 card. There's a lot of little intricacies that you have to deal with. And the thing is, if you're an international seller selling even in the United States, you want to put tracking on it just because for your own benefit and your own security. That's part of the reason eBay created that low end, tracking option that they came up with on below $20. That was their big value add for US sellers, because just having that little extra piece with tracking in there was something. Traditionally, that's been eBay's approach, is that they'll have this competition to do that, or if they do something, it's like superficial. They've had so much of the market for so long that they really haven't cared. And if that's the case, well then more additional issues could come as more market share gets eaten up. Yeah, $50 cards are the old $20 cards. That's right. Well, we got to ratchet it up, Bob. We got to ratchet it up, Don't you know the hobby is booming? Everything's going up. Everything. But yeah, that's one of those things that you got to kind of keep your eye on. Stuff like this, you can take it at face value and just be like, okay, so Ken Golden got, $40 million investment. So what? It's like, well, what's he doing with it? Oh, he's building some infrastructure. Okay. Why? Well, now he wants to take on and expand the amount of consignments he can receive. Okay. Why is that going to matter? Well, there's other groups and consignments and eBay and other platforms that may lose a little bit of business, or they may not. And we'll have to see kind of how that plays out. That's what we're curious about. Yes, his name is Bob. That's a fact. We got all the YouTube Hall of Famers here. At least two of them. You back, Bobby?
Yeah, I have to use my cell phone. My internet's been bad the last 2 days.
Okay.
I don't know why with Rogers. So.
Oh, okay. So that explains that. Fair
yeah,
enough.
it clipped right out. So I'm just using my iPhone.
That's fair. It's all good.
Yeah, why? You see me okay? Rogers. So.
Oh,
okay. So that explains that. Fair
yeah,
enough.
it clipped right out. So I'm just using my iPhone.
That's fair. It's all good.
Yeah, why? You see me okay? Rogers.
So I think you got us on echo there, Joe.
How's that?
Much better.
Good to see y'all.
How's
Hey,
it
Joe.
going?
How you doing?
Good. How are y'all?
Very
Not too
good.
bad. Not too bad.
Not
Glad
really,
you could pop in. Were you able to catch a little bit of the discussion there at the beginning about the Ken Golden piece? I was able to play the little clip there just to add a little context from Golden himself, because I thought that'd be a little helpful.
I was. Thank you. I must say, keeping up with hobby content these days is practically a full-time job. So it's good to have small little highlights, if you will. And I did hear that spot. Thank you.
Yeah. The one perk of Instagram, unfortunately, isn't good for it, but I've gotten to the point where even if they play stuff like that, I can download the clip and I can play back. So I play back Ken Golden at 2x speed. I'm like, all right, I'm not listening to this in real time. I'm not dealing with that. I don't mind the self-promotion to a certain point. It amuses me, but there are limits. So, okay, hold on. I got to do a little flip here. Looks like Bobby is switched over. All right, you're back on your regular feed there, Bobby? You got to make sure your microphone's not muted there.
Sorry, there we go. I think we're back. Is it?
I think you're going to have to mute it again. It's always something with Bobby's setup. I don't know what it is. It's always something. Okay, let me quickly grab a couple of comments here. Yeah, a little back and forth.
Is that okay?
Nope, you are an echo and a feedback. The whole thing. Good evening, Max. Yep. Upper Deck has an ads in the end boards at Tahoe. Interesting. Okay. It happens. It happens. Yeah. It is the hot microphone. Yes, we do. All right, you want to try talking again, Bobby?
Yeah.
Nobody. I don't know what happened that time. It's like now you've got.
I'm
Now
gonna
you
go
got.
out. I'm gonna go out and come back.
All right, sounds good. I think it's. I think at a certain point, someone who listens to the thing regularly is going to think we're doing it intentionally. We're not. We're really not. It's always something though.
Well, that's the thing, and right? Punk rock and roll, like get that feedback, but I'm not sure that's what we're going for.
I don't think it's what he's going for. But anyway, so any thoughts though on the piece that I was referring to? Because now it looks like, it sounds to me like he's taking some, at least some of this money to try to ramp up the platform to try to expand. Like it looks like he's coming down market a little bit, which could be interesting. Any thoughts on that piece?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm I think we're kind of back to the theme of the capitalist Darwinian theorem, which is okay, if I improve and you improve and then they have to improve and then we're all improving, does that take us to a better place? And maybe it does. I'm not entirely sure. I'm open to the possibility that apropos to what you were saying earlier, that maybe eBay will need to respond if they're not just asleep at the wheel entirely. But we've seen plenty of examples where people don't respond, and other organizations either make mistakes or don't quite follow through the way they thought they would be able to, and so it's complicated.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think right now at this spot, I think the best thing that could happen, as much as Ken Golden entertains me, it's he's a fun character, and it was one of those things I was thinking about the other day. I was chatting with a buddy of mine, and I go, you know what I like about Ken Golden? I like that he's got a, Paul always uses the joke when I hang out with Dave and Steve on their podcast, or when I do the thing here, he always has the fun with the unfettered megalomania, which is my brand. It's kind of my thing that I do. I think that's why I appreciate King Golden. He's basically like me, but it's like, but he does it without any of the refinement or charm. He's just like, no, I'm just gonna bludgeon you with. It's like I am full of myself right now. I am basking in my own magnificence, and I kind of like it. I kind of enjoy it. I appreciate it as a fellow megalomania.
Unapologetic. That's
No, not even a little bit. I go. If you had a little bit more style, Ken, if you brought just a little more style into it, it's like, you know what? That'd be kind of fun.
And I don't know his origin story entirely, but it does sound like, I mean, I've heard his name for so long, and you as well, Carlos. I mean, I think, if in the current context, if you go back 20, 30, 40 years, I mean, you probably do feel like you can have a bit of a, okay, everybody, I know what the hell I'm talking about, because you've seen a lot. You've gone through, the market's up, the market down. I think the question that we're all reckoning right now is like, where is this going to fit in the greater historical, trajectory of sports cards, trading cards, memorabilia, and the beauty is nobody can know until it unfolds. So
Absolutely. So let's give this a try, and then I've got to follow up to what you said there, because I think you're bringing some good thoughts as usual, Joe. But let's give this a go. All right, Bobby, let's try. What do you got? Do you have words for us, Bobby?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think
We can hear you.
I think we're onto something.
You can't hear us?
Nothing.
Oh.
That was actually the issue we were having initially. The struggle is real, Bobby. The struggle is real.
This is all plugged in fine.
Okay, so I'm going to mute him for now, just while he's working on it. So all I was going to say to you, Joe, was that part of the fun for me, and it plays off of the...
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
But I still can't hear you guys.
Yeah, that's the part.
Yeah. We'll be back.
Yeah, I'll drop them off for now. Anyway, all I was going to say was that what ended up happening is, as I started watching it and I started listening to it, my thought process was very similar to what was mentioned there by Boston Kid a little bit earlier. I just want to make sure I grab it. Okay, anyway, regardless, from a competitive standpoint, I want to see... Oh, sorry, it was Hockey Guy here. I want to see eBay get a little competition. Like in honesty, it can be Golden, it can be anybody else. I don't really care. In all honesty, I would like to see them get a little competition. I want them forced to do a little bit better, because from the seller's perspective, it has not been great. The selection and the eyeballs is nice. Like, I can't argue from that piece, because I'll put up a card that has some liquidity and get offers within minutes, so people can see it, which is nice. But there's so many little things that can go wrong, returns and things like that, that eBay has made very unfortunate. As a seller, from that perspective, it's not fun. It's just not enjoyable, and it's problematic. But and there is no guarantee whatsoever that Golden's entry into the market will fix that. Absolutely zero. But it would be nice to see if there is an opportunity for there to be at least an alternative. I don't know if I would immediately run to try Golden services, but if the new platform is solid, if they're able to ramp up appropriately and be able to handle the volume of whoever does come in, and they're able to properly execute and actually get stuff out there within a reasonable period. So if it's a good experience as a buyer to buy from them, and it's a good experience as a seller, then I see no reason they couldn't grab their own little share of the pie. They don't necessarily have to steal all of eBay's thunder, but if they steal a little bit, it could motivate eBay to be like, oh, we let this thing go. We've had a stranglehold on this for so long, and we could have fixed it. And now we're playing catch up. All of a sudden, now somebody's stolen our thunder.
Yeah, I mean, I think where I see it in the more immediate time period is it's kind of the cream rises to the top, and Golden's probably capitalizing on some of the sellers who want to release the biggest cards out there and get some return on it. And then you got PWCC working within the eBay framework, and you got a few other major card companies working within the eBay framework. And so I think what's going to be interesting to see is how will those relationships with the major card houses unfold if Golden starts to kind of operate one step above. Will they be forced to reconsider their relationship with eBay? Or will they create their own grassroots version of a Golden auction house and just say, okay, I guess this is where things are headed, so we better do it too? Or will they kind of double down on eBay and or eBay will make some overtures in their direction? Because somebody has to be looking at the profits that just say PWCC alone brings to eBay, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, that's the thing though. The money talks. The money always talks. So real quick, I'm going to try. So Bobby, can you hear us? You have to nod from your side of it. I can see him there. Doesn't look like it. So anyway, all I was going to say was that the money does talk, and when it comes to the money, if enough business, if some of those volume consigners move in, okay. So it looks like he's saying yes. So you can hear us, Bobby?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I'm just kidding, Joe.
Yeah. We've been down that road. If you had gone that way, it would have been a little faster.
I think so.
Yeah, you
I
got
had to change the settings in the mic cam mic thing, so that's why. Okay.
Sounds fair.
We're good.
Sounds fair. 14th time's a charm. It was funny. It was funny because Amit was talking about the podcast piece, and I haven't promoted it very much at all. I've mentioned it once or twice, so I'll take the opportunity to do that here. And just for the record, I did the last podcast episode that I put up on there. I actually had to cut like the first hour because the audio was real bad. I generally don't bother to do much editing, but if I know that there's an audio issue somewhere in there, I will go in and fix it to the best of my ability. I've done that already in a couple of them. But
for which one?
The last one that was on there was from back towards the end of December. It was one of the first. It was one of the ones that you were on. Joe was on, and Jeremy was on. So it was the three of us. It was around a couple of days before Christmas, December 21st, December 20th, thereabouts. The first hour, I was having some audio issues. Like my audio didn't sound great. But then when you came on, that was one of the times where you had audio issues. Basically every episode. So we had that section there where we were playing around with it for a while. In the video version, it's kind of funny because you get to see my face and you get to see the reaction to you having audio issues. But in the audio version, it doesn't carry over.
Yeah.
All you do is get to listen to Alvin and the Chipmunks for a while. That's kind of fun. But unless you want to listen to the Alvin and
It's
Chipmunks,
Christmas time, right?
yeah, you get to listen to Christmas album. That's right.
What are you eating, Joe? California salad?
Spaghetti, good old spaghetti. Pretty simple.
With spaghetti with Parmesan cheese. Right on.
There you go.
It's
I don't
yummy.
know. We offer no investment advice, but I would at least keep an eye on it because I don't think anything's going to change overnight. I want to see what that platform looks like. In all honesty, I want to see what that platform looks like because I don't think eBay. I think the problem might be that eBay is probably not going to feel threatened until they actually see business go away. If they see the dollar amount, because the sports cards is a nice chunk of their business, and there's money to be made there. And if it does go away in volume, like in real dollar and cents volume, then they'll be, oh shoot, we should respond. Well, yeah, it would have been good if you had responded while people were complaining while they were on your platform. So
Do you really think it'll take over?
It doesn't have to. It just has to eat enough of a chunk to force it. Here's the thing: all I would
Do you think
want
it will, though?
would take some of the money away.
Take a chunk.
Well, it's taken to high end already. Like if you're selling over like decent 5 figures and 6
I
figures,
think
you're
it
not
was
doing
always
it on eBay.
there. It was always there, anyways.
It was, but they've pushed themselves into that position now where like if you have a $10,000 plus card, would you really want to play the games with eBay and returns and all the stuff they can do?
Not at all.
It's not worth your time. So if you're already in that type of card, you were leaning away from eBay anyway. So now this but now this like emphasizes and put like an exclamation point on it.
Sure it does.
But now what you've done is you said, oh, but if you have like a $500 card, okay, it still might be interesting. Like if you're over a couple of $100, depending again what his fee structure is. That's the important part. Like that's the real question. It's like if you're talking about like a $200 or $300 card, but you're trying to take 20%, maybe I'll grit my teeth and bear it with eBay's issues because it's not 20%.
15, 17, depends on the PayPal.
If they make it competitive, you never know. That's the part that'll make it interesting. If there are enough buyers who will actually pay, and you know you'll get your money, and you don't have to deal with the hassle, and you don't have to ship it, so then you might be able to talk some people into that.
Sure enough.
Yeah. So I say good evening, Victor.
Hey, Victor. Justin.
Yep. Buy Las Vegas Sands and DraftKings. There you go.
It's the Boston kid.
Yeah.
2% of eBay revenue. Yeah. Nobody's problem.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It's one of those things where I know that they've been able to capitalize on the fact that from the sports card side of things, they have had a chunk of sales volume for a long time. They've been the marketplace because they still have millions of lots in that segment of it. But it's one of those things where like you've taken it for granted for a very long time. And even when you've given some overtures, they're very small. Like there's tiny little things, and you just slowly take things away and make them just a little bit more difficult from the seller's perspective.
Well, I know Facebook took a lot away from eBay too. Not that they know, but there's a lot of volume that's going elsewhere.
Wouldn't surprise me. Anything that offers, like I said, anything that offers competition, I'm in favor of.
Me too. I really enjoy that. Yeah.
Yeah, because even if it fails, I would still like to see the attempt made. To me, it's like I still want them to try, and if they can take a little bit of it up, or encourage somebody else to try and let them take a stab at it. Like it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't have to be them. It can be anybody.
Yeah, I think I was asking at one point, how much percentage did eBay take at one time? Was it like 6% when they first started?
It's moved. The numbers changed a lot over the
Oh
years.
yeah,
It's changed a lot.
dramatically.
So
Clubhouse.
my thought too that a variable in the whole economics of it is your card going to sell for more on Golden because it's Golden, right? So that's like you would think likely, and then of course when people are perhaps vastly overpaying for a PSA 10 Jordan, you're maybe attracting a clientele that's like, yeah, we overpay sometimes, and that's what you get when you're submitting your cards to Golden. That becomes maybe a little different than the sort of consumer experience as a seller with eBay, and also just kind of as a buyer, like, do you get to feel a little bit more like I'm in an auction, not just in a random, eBay rummage sale?
Rummage sale. Okay.
I think the other thing is maybe this would be the way that I would pose. And Golden did allude to it. I'll be curious to see. This is a volume question because it's similar to what happened with SGC when they promoted themselves and were able to get a little run up for a little while. Anytime a sports card thing says we're ready to take on, this increased volume, bring it on. The sports card market has always been like, we'll punish you, we'll test you, we'll find out if you can handle the volume.
Yeah.
Now, let's assume they can. If they can, then great for them. But the real test is going to be like one of the things that Golden has that eBay doesn't is that they qualify the buyers.
That's one good thing.
Can you do that at the scale required? Because if your clientele, even if you have less potential bidders, but they're qualified bidders who will pay, that has value. From a seller perspective, that has huge value. It means even if they're overpaying it, they'll pay. Mm-hmm. If the money arrives for you, then that's what you want as a seller. It's like, I want you to be a legit buyer. And if you're a legit buyer who actually pays for whatever it is you bid it up, whether it's plus to 20% or not, that's kind of the question that we're going to have. So that's going to be the absolute key to that.
I haven't actually observed a golden auction before. I mean, have you guys just I know there was a watch party a few nights back Jeremy hosted. I think that was with PWC, but
that was for PWCC on eBay, but yeah. Watching a golden auction would be an exercise in frustration, especially for some of the higher auction things. Because once you get to a certain point, it's because then you can go into extended bidding.
4 a.m,
which can last however long it's going to last.
Yeah.
So,
extended bidding. What's
yeah.
that?
So put it this way. So imagine you're bidding on one of those Jordan rookies, and you bid in the first section of bidding that goes up until 10 p.m. tonight, Eastern time, where I am. So another 13 minutes. So you've made a bid up until this point. That qualifies you to participate in what's called extended bidding. And what happens is there's I think it's half an hour or something like that. So it creates this window.
It varies, yes.
Yeah, we're inside of 15 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is. Somebody else who bid during the first section of it is allowed to keep bidding. But what happens is when you do that, then the other people have 15 or 30 minutes to respond. And if so, the clock resets. So it just keeps going and going.
At
so
29 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, you wait until the last possible second and it's do it. But then it resets the clock to 30 minutes again.
It's you think you have it and you don't. But then there was the time that they also had the where you could bid and that the whole auction wouldn't end until the last bid was placed.
Yes.
So it kept it open. But I think they changed that or altered that since then.
In all honesty, I find that amusing, but for a watch party, that would be misery. Just resetting the clock over and over again.
We would beat the record.
Exactly. Now, the thing is, I don't know why. I would love to see, this would be more for my entertainment than anything else. I would love if after you get to the thing, if you're going to do the extended bidding, then do live extended bidding where now you can bid whatever ridiculous, stupid thing you want. Now it's it's $200,000. Okay, $500,000. Now the rest of you go away.
Yeah.
Just be here you go.
Like that movie, 500,000. Oh, yeah. It ends there.
It's what? Bidding over? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Going once, going twice. Sold. Get out.
Done. Yeah. Exactly.
So good evening, 90s hockey collector. 4-shop corner consignment fee 8 to 15%. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. PWCC has got its own percentage as well.
It's less. It's far less.
I think, because some of those consignments can have favorable rates with eBay. So that allows you as a person who submits to be able to potentially sell your thing for a little bit more as well. So that's kind of nice. It's a nice feature.
Yeah, they pay quick too. The only, I think, drawback or downfall would be that they would, if somebody ever comes back and wants to return the item, how long are you into it for? 90 days, I guess. Same thing, right?
I believe
As
it's
eBay.
like that.
Yeah.
But the consignment ones, though, at least they kind of handle that for you. So instead of you having to deal with the hassle of it, it's on them to kind of take care of that for you.
Sell you, Jordan. Buy a new car. You're screwed.
Basically, yeah.
Until the next time you auction it off, I guess.
That's right. Exactly. All of it is what you're doing is you're creating another intermediary. Because if you really think about it, in that scenario, you do a consignment. Well, PWCC or whoever, that's an intermediary. eBay's an intermediary. You got the customer, you got the buyer, and you got the seller. And then you got two parties in between. kind of operating in that space. And that's basically what it is. Golden is trying to be like, okay, I'm still an intermediary, but I'm trying to make it like, okay, you send me the thing. So now I'm going to be the auctioneer, the platform, and the fulfillment center, which may have some value because then it's like, okay, you send it to them and then hands off until the thing sells.
For high end, I see it working very well for them. But they've always, like all the auction houses, always have the high end stuff for the most part. Yeah, eBay, yes, but I think the auction houses gives it 30 days, well advertised, well, good write up, where somebody just arbitrarily listing makes a big difference.
I guess it just depends on how many of those qualified sellers also like to buy, like to slum it and buy some $50 or $100 cards. That's the question.
That's me.
The thing is, there might be like here's the thing: if they had a good selection of $50 or $100, $200 or $500 cards,
Why
it
not?
might be of interest. Yeah, as a buyer, it would behoove me to go through the hoops to get qualified, and then I can go bid on these things. The high end sellers might have no interest, but for me, it's still like then it's an auction, the old fashioned way. But you got to factor in, the premium. You got to factor that in. It's got to be part of your calculation.
I think on an average item that sells for, let's say, $500 or something like that, I think that a lot of people consider that when they're bidding, especially in a golden or
I think so.
whatever auction house. You're going to pay 20 points, so you're going to go, okay, it's $500, so I'm going to bid 400 and change, but I got shipping, I got tax, I got all the other stuff that goes along with it. So I think they're bidding less a little bit, but when you're talking about Jordan 7s, 8, 9s, it's irrelevant at that point. That's chump change, pocket change for the bigger guys.
I think the people that have those pockets don't really care. once they've said yes to 600,000, 700,000, it's not that much of a stretch.
Plus tax, whatever. Yeah.
You sell off a couple of Ziggy Puffys and you break even. You're done. Swap them straight up.
3 or 4, maybe. Yeah.
Tops.
OPG.
Well, you taught me something there, Carlos. I didn't know about that kind of ongoing bidding thing, and that in and of itself, it's a slightly different playing field than eBay. So you can get those egos, going where it's like, I'm not going to lose this card. No,
and you got time to think about it. You got time to stew on it. Imagine you give those people be like, no, I'm going to let it go. But you got 30 minutes to think about it. And you're like, but then you come back after about 25 minutes and go, no, I'm not letting him have it. You talk yourself all the way back into it.
The greatest creation of auction houses is the supplementation of that. Extra bidding. Oh yeah. Just keep bidding. Go ahead. Enjoy.
Just hysterical. Like it's hilarious, but at the same time, it's like, no. That's why I said, like, for watch party, this would be misery.
But I mean, so that cuts both ways in terms of the consumer, right? Like, I mean, there is a part of me, my eBay DNA. I like the snipe at the end and getting the deal, feeling like, whereas, so obviously that probably doesn't happen anymore on, LeBron James Chrome PSA 10s, but it still happens for cards that I'm interested in, and even ones that are more than, $200 or $300. So I guess it makes me wonder, the relative, I'm sure it helps their bottom line. They wouldn't be doing it if it didn't help their bottom line. Mm-hmm. But as a consumer, it might make me a tiny bit squeamish to not really know, like, when is this over? Did I win yet?
Yeah, I think, and I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I did catch little bits and pieces that he alluded to in that Instagram live, where I think one of the things they're going to try to play around with, I think they're going to try to play around with faster versions of their auctions for like a more streamlined version, which probably would make more sense for those lower priced items. For the bigger priced items, you want to have the full the marketing blitz. You want Golden to unbox it on Instagram and show everybody, oh my God, look at this $1 million card, and then show it on TV, basically put it in everybody's face. That Kobe, that Kobe BGS 10, black label, I've seen it like 50 times. It's like, and I'm not even going out of my way to see it. Like every time Golden does anything, he goes, and I'm just walking down the street, black label Kobe. Look at it. Look at it. It's like, for God's sake, man, calm down. We get it. It's a black label Kobe. We understand. We got it. Thank you.
He wants us to feel like it's in our collection.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
For something like that, though, like you want to put on all the stops. Anything that will be like, I want you to pay attention to this. But for some of those $500 cards or whatever, it's like they can be some. And let's not forget, there are some nice cards that are more affordable collector, regular human collector base cards that you can get that maybe don't necessitate like the big write-up. It's the equivalent of the old auction house where you'd have this gigantic multi-page spread, pictures from every conceivable angle and all the grandiose description. And then there's one where like, this is what the card is, this is the population, this is the serial number, whatever. This is the opening bid.
I always enjoy the grandiose write-ups that they come in and they talk about, oh, it's a Wayne Gretzky this, and he did this, and he did this, and this. Okay, it's this small little blurb about exactly what the item is, and it really doesn't explain it very well. So,
and you can tell. And the thing is, I would think it would make sense to me, Joe, that for something like that, streamline it. Just make it so that it has a definitive end point, at which point you can do your snipe, and we move on. But with the addition of the fulfillment, which is nice. If that means they will ship it reliably on time as a consumer, then that's a better experience for you. So that's nice to be like, okay, so we'll send it to you by tracking. Here's your tracking number. Here, Joe, your card's on the way. Something like that. Which I think that could be okay. And the other thing that I caught that was kind of interesting, also as part of it, is that apparently they're going to use Amazon Web Services as kind of the back end for the thing. So they're leaning into that, which makes sense.
So not to change the subject, but
by all means, we've got our mileage out of it.
We might as well.
By all means.
Yeah, sure.
Did you guys catch it? I think it just dropped like 2 hours ago, and I caught just a tiny bit of it. I believe it's is it Rob at Northeast Ohio Sports Cards was on Jeff's show, Sports Cards Investor, and they were talking about non-trading cards, the kind of rise of Marvel and whatever G.I. Joe and Star Wars 77 all manners of Star Wars, which was interesting. It was I think obviously we're probably all aware that this is happening, but I'm curious what you guys think about it, because I know you've had proximity to all of these issues through the years in one way or another, whether you collected them or not. How are you feeling about non-sports trading cards at the moment?
I think it makes sense to a certain point, because it's the untapped frontier right now. It's the one that hasn't been tapped dry up until this point.
It's what's next.
Yeah, exactly. But my thought process was, it made me laugh. I had a good chuckle about it. I was teasing my younger brother because he collected those cards.
Yeah,
so I sent him the link. So I sent him to the link of the thing. I go, so when are we cashing out and making the money, bro? Like, what the heck, man?
Yeah.
Let's go. But the thing was, and I said the story about it, is that they were in the dollar stores. Those packs were in the dollar stores, and they were available in abundance. It was to the point that I don't know how many packs my younger brother opened. I genuinely don't know. But here's what I can tell you. He got so proficient at them because, you remember how back the old version of being sleazy at the card shop was people who would grab the packs and be able to feel where the insert cards were. Yeah. But the thing is, he got so adept at it, he didn't have to squeeze the pack. He didn't have to do anything. He basically would grab it, and he'd instinctively know which one had the inserts in it. So he'd grab the stack of the ones with the inserts and leave with those. It was like he could feel the weight or whatever it was. But he didn't do anything to the pack. The pack, if you looked at it, was pristine. He didn't do anything special to it. But he'd come back and go, open it, insert, open it, insert, open it, insert. And he'd complete the entire series of all of the different inserts and all the base cards. They were
It's like a Rain Man thing,
Yeah.
Count how many marbles just spilled on the floor. No. Where's your brother live, Carlos?
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, he got so proficient at it that he completed, for a couple of those different years, a couple of those different base sets, he got all the base sets, all the insert sets, all the regular, and even the parallel of the base set. So my thought process was, it's good for now while the pop counts are low. But now a bunch of people, and I've seen the videos. So what happened is, now people are shipping in stuff to eat, to PSA and all that, by the bucketful. So what happens when those turn around and come back and those pop counts aren't so low?
Well, it's like an ecological cycle, right? Because the timeline for shipping them to PSA has changed to a degree that one must wonder will the interest still be there by the time they get back, depending on if they do a 2-day, a 5-day, a 30-day? Good Lord. I mean, it could be a year before they get it back, in which case has the hobby moved on and you sort of missed your window of flipping, or you weren't interested in flipping. You really like these cards, which, I kind of have some dubiousness around that. Maybe not with the Marvel and maybe not with Star Wars, but some of these other issues do seem a little strained to me, at least. But I don't know.
And that's just it. It's like I said, I think for the moment it works. For the moment it's fine. And I think if you had the box, I think if you have the boxes right now, and some of those boxes are going for over 1,000, get your money, because there's cases upon cases upon cases of that stuff. It was never rare. Like, there was no scarcity whatsoever. They were printing that stuff. I'm sure they were printing it beside the Pro Set factory. Like, are we done printing Pro Set? Yeah, finally we took a break. What do you want to do? Print some Marvel cards. Just use the same machines. These have already been warmed up. Just keep running them through. You may as well make it happen. But it just made me laugh. I was like, okay, sounds good.
But again, I mean, so what Rob was talking about was the importance of PSA 10s and 9s. So you do have quite a few cards out there, perhaps, and or even accounted for cards, but the idiosyncrasies of the time and the handling of it pre-value awareness. It'll be interesting to see what the pop counts do, if the interest sustains. I'm kind of a little bummed I didn't get some 77 Star Wars. I'm pretty sure I had some of those as a child, and they do kind of have a little bit of a nostalgic feel to me. And then there's all these other colors, and I'm a little confused by that. But a Luke #1, Luke Skywalker #1. Yeah, that's kind of intriguing, but not at $1,000.
Well, I think that one will be in this. Now, the 77 Star Wars might be a little trickier, just because I don't think they printed it with the abundance of the Marvel cards. I would say the Marvel cards are printed in much greater abundance, especially with all that unopened wax out there. I can pretty much guarantee, the kids were rough with the cards, so that means PSA 10s and PSA 9s are going to be trickier to come by at first. But then as people start opening the unopened wax that they probably had sitting for years that was cheap forever, you could do a volume game. If you open enough boxes, you're going to find a couple of well-centered copies with some good edges and corners. And all it would take is, because right now some of those pop counts or some of those cards are in single digits or in the low teens. Well, if you go from the low teens to pop 50, pop 60, pop 70, not even pop 100, is that enough to sustain the price point? That's tough to say. I don't know. The person who paid $1,000 for it, or $2,000, are they going to want another one? Are they going to need another one? Does somebody else need another one? That's what makes it tricky.
Yeah. Well, I not to take us down a different rabbit hole, but I have limited space in my current living situation, and I have this one box where I was aware I had a few comic books, and so I made the effort to move a bunch of boxes and kind of go through some cobwebs, and I accessed my #1 Star Wars original comic book, and then a few others that I didn't really remember having, and it was just kind of interesting to see that. I was never a big comic book collector, but I'd imagine, I mean, at least some people are believing that this will also, even though comics have, I am understanding, somewhat recently had a pretty big spike, there may be a tertiary spike or something coming soon. So
Getting tired of that word.
Tertiary?
We're going to use it very soon.
Yeah, well, it is an accurate phrase, Bobby.
It is
an accurate phrase.
So we're trying to get rid of it is what we're trying to do.
Well, tertiary is more of an economic term, so I don't think that one's going away. It serves a function in economics, yes.
Well, we used it sort of in the subset rookie card kind of discussion that we're going to get into soon.
Yeah, that's right. Sounds good. Okay, so quickly I'll grab a couple more of these comments, just get caught up here. So I did like this one. I love that Justin, of all people, is questioning someone being redundant and repetitive with a story.
Really?
Just leaving it there. Let it not be said that I am above little snide. As soon as I saw it, I was like, really, coming from you? Pot kettle black. Moving on. Anyway, at least I'm not a one-trick pony. Anyway, So this one I liked just because I had a little fun with this one. I love the cup traditionally. So I know this isn't your lane, Bobby, but I want to quickly comment on this.
No, actually, I followed the cup.
Yeah, I will say, and I don't know, Joe, have you paid much attention to the cup in previous years as far as that? So I'll touch on this one really quick. Traditionally, I love the cup, and I got a chance to look at the checklist, and I cursed Billy Cilio for having Medano in
How
the
many
checklist a
Medanos?
bunch of times. Yeah,
Really?
but I have changed my mind. I want to announce I have taken a 180-degree turn on this. I am no longer mad at Billy. And for one very good reason. I got a chance to look at a couple of the cards. They've shown up on eBay now. I've had a chance to look at them. And Billy saved me some money. They're ugly as sin. I was like,
Good for you.
I was like, oh, thank God. I just looked at them and I looked at them and I was like, traditionally the cup is one of those ones. It's like, I actually like the cup.
Outstanding.
I like the
Yeah.
cup. Yeah, they're quality cards.
Always.
I'm not questioning the quality. I'm sure the cards are of the quality that we would expect from a premium
Yeah.
product of that. But they're just ugly as hell. Whoever designed them, fire them.
Really?
Like, oh my God. Some of them are just plain and generic. But some
For
of them
the
is like,
cup, how much is it a box? A pack?
oh, the tin has gotta be.
Eight?
It's gotta be pushing like 1,000. I could be wrong, guys. Please correct me. But I know it's gone for record amounts.
I
Without-
opened
without
one
question.
when it was $300. That was many years ago,
Yeah, but it's
and I got commons like
it's been
whatever.
escalating for some time, which is normal. That's especially right now. That's not unexpected. That's not shocking. But I will say that this past time I thought was very interesting because I didn't get a chance to see some of the subsets, so I thought it was kind of interesting. Here we go. Yeah, 1,200 Canadian. Like, it's super high. Like, the ability to turn around and make your money back on that is
You have to hit something good.
You've got to hit something massive. So I wanted to show you guys this one as an example of what I'm referring to. So check this one out. So this is the brilliance. And I'm like, okay, look. So let's take this in pieces. Let's take this in pieces for one second. And this is not art hour, but let's just take this in components here. I like
The Mona Lisa.
I like the Minnesota North Star motif. I like that because I like when they use the North Star thing. I'm a fan. I like that they use the North Star logo. That part I'm fine. And I can tell by the way they did this card, they did it with like an acetate. They did like a thing where like the autograph is elevated. And the gold paint pen theoretically sounds like a good idea. But the red all the way around it, and then like the gold paint pen on this, and I'm like, what is this abomination? What do you do? What do you
see the autograph?
What horror are you inflicting upon my eyeballs? Like, what is this?
That is.
Did you guys remember the old 70s movie Rollerball?
Oh yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
James Caan.
Kind of reminds me of that look.
Yeah. but now here's a question, Joe. Would you pay $150 US for that? Because I wouldn't.
Well, I mean, I'd have to, do my due diligence with comps, but I will say that I always appreciate, not that it matches the card in any way, shape, or form, but I always appreciate the gold ink and or silver ink over just a regular, pen.
You can't even see the
Agree,
autograph.
but the design has to complement. The design has to complement.
That was my whole caveat.
Yeah.
But it's still gold ink, and gold ink is cool in my.
I agree with that. That's what I'm saying. Traditionally, this could have been very good. There is a world in which this could have been done in a way that would have forced me to spend money.
I don't know with the red though. I don't know.
That's what I mean.
A little too much.
No, it's a mess. It's a mess.
Fire and ice. I don't know. It just.
I was like, someone approved this. That's what concerned me. It's like someone looked at this and said, "Yeah, this is fine."
No, I think they went. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, put it through.
Yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, great.
How can you pay 150 for that? I just that's.
Well, I didn't.
Oh, well,
someone did.
Fortunately, you said so.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
So
That's not a very good card.
Good evening, Dave. Weston Edmonton's up to 1,400 Canadian. Yeah, and Franco's saying here, no, I agree with you, Franco. I'm not saying no. I saw a bunch of the different subsets, and I go, oh, okay, some of these look pretty good. Some of these look all right. But then I went looking for a couple of the ones. As I said, I keep my eyes open. It was one of those things that I wanted to make sure that I did my diligence. I wanted to check and see. But some of them, like that one was just flat out not attractive. This next one is not nearly as bad, but it's not that exciting for me. I thought the idea was interesting, but again, the execution was a little questionable. So in the same vein, So this is the ink insignia. And they
Okay.
basically just took a cutout. Like, it's got the
Very
white space, which is
boring.
fine.
Yeah.
Like I've seen so many cup cards. Like I've seen so many good, like beautifully executed cup cards. And then I look at this and I go, well, better luck next year, guys.
The only thing that would make
tried.
it good if it was a 1 of 1.
They tried, I suppose, because all they really did was I think I haven't had the card in hand. I think what they did is made it multiple layers because the insignia is recessed in probably into that, which is cool, I guess. But you know, it's just a manufactured like I wouldn't even say a patch because I don't think that's a patch. It just looks like a piece of plastic that they printed the North Star onto, and
Yeah.
it's basically an autograph card out of 25 with some accentuation. Which again, the first 2 copies went for about 150 and 145 respectively.
That's a lack of creativity there.
I was like, I don't know about that.
No.
I think that was also a pass for me. Yep, that is indeed the cup. So yeah, I think they saved me some money on that one. I think they saved me some money this year.
A lot of money.
Yeah. Well, usually I try to go after a couple of the cards in there, but I was like, I haven't seen one I like so far. There's plenty of good cards. There are plenty of good cards in that series. I promise you. Like I've seen some of the other ones, and there's some good ones. Usually they do a good job with patch cards and stuff like that, but those 2 were not. I wasn't feeling it.
I don't like the manufactured patches.
Yeah, and the base card was a little too busy, and then there's a autograph parallel of the base card as well. Not great. I say send that one back in. If it was a restaurant, send that one back to the chef. Let's redo that one.
It's no Mona Lisa.
Yeah. And my expectations are really high. Maybe the problem is the cup is a victim of its own success because I have high expectations when I see, it's the cup. I have high expectations. That did not meet those.
Yeah, you can only reach a certain level before. How much better can you get?
Oh, I agree. But that's always been the danger that the cup is courted because it's been around long enough now, since 2005, where it's
maybe
like,
too long.
Yeah, it's like maybe do you need to give it a break for a year or do something else? Or I like I said, I think there's a bunch of other cards that are much better designed. Those are bad examples. But I'm like, well, if that was the best you could do with those, maybe leave those subsets out.
Well, honestly, when the cup came out, it was uniquely different. It was very interesting. But the regular issues have caught up with that. And I don't think the cup is that much above anymore. I think they're all kind of at this same kind of level. If anything, the cup dropped down a little bit.
It's gotten tricky. Yeah, it's been problematic at this stage. But yeah, it's one of those things. Like I just when Franco mentioned the cup, I just chuckled because I was like, yeah, I've been looking at some of the cup. I had a little bit of fun. I was like, okay, well, it is what it is.
True.
But anyway, sounds good. So anything else on your mind, Joe? I think we touched on a couple of the fun things already, and I got to take some digs at the cup because I needed to.
Well, not to extend the non-trading cards too far, but you know, there are. So, for instance, you know, I had a little mail day on
what'd you buy
Saturday, and so this is a Green Hornet.
Green Hornet, okay, yeah,
and it's 1966, and that's Bruce Lee, which I think is kind of cool. And you know, it's a 7, whatever. I mean, it's not even, and it is very affordable. So I'm wondering about all these like interesting off brands. And then there's this other guy. I don't know if you heard him. This dude, John Lennon.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if music is next. You know, I'm wondering.
Pop culture, right?
Yeah. A lot of people. What he was in a band, right?
Everything.
Vaguely, I think I've heard of him, maybe. Yeah, they did all right.
What isn't next is next.
It could be. It's not a bad call. I was when you showed the Green Hornet one and the Bruce Lee thing, I was trying to think in the back of my mind. Are you familiar with the podcast Luca Tigers and Bronze? Oh my! Is that one? You ever heard of that one? So one of the guys on there literally was talking about Green Hornet. And he was talking about it as like a potential Bruce Lee like rookie card concept.
Ooh, rookie! How do you get that?
Because it was the Green Hornet card. Who produced
a lot of the Green Hornet was Tops.
Yeah, was that which one was that one that you had there, Joe?
Yeah, that's
Maybe not.
the gosh, my eyes. Yeah, 66 Green Hornet, and I believe it is tops. Although it's not saying tops on the PSA holder. So in,
Oh,
in any case, no, I mean what I observed and saw cards get picked off, when you start doing a bunch of follows and then suddenly it's like, oh, that one disappeared. Oh, that one disappeared. The ones that seem to be understandably the most popular, the ones that have Bruce Lee, one just by himself. So that's going to carry a premium if it's a Bruce Lee card just by himself. And two, they have these, fun 60s masks things going on. And when Bruce Lee, there's one where there's probably multiples, but one that I saw that was like a PSA 9 or 10 where he was unmasked and it was kind of like his character card almost. That thing leapt off the shelves at like, 1,500 PSA 9 or something like that, it was over $1,000. So it's certainly not like undiscovered at this point. It's just a question of, okay, what other ones, that's what prompted me to go get a very fringy one that wasn't, nearly as, very cheap actually. I think it was $35. I figure a PSA holder at this point is worth about $35. So there's Bruce Lee. But I think people are targeting kind of in the same way that number one Luke Skywalker sort of features the kind of like, that's the core, like there's a bunch of others in that 77 set that have Luke Skywalker and a number that have Luke Skywalker all by his lonesome. But there's probably going to be in some of these, new kitschy type of sets, the one that's deemed as like the core card for that particular character, be it, Bruce Lee or, other folks that we haven't even thought about yet.
Yeah, I think we're going through the cycle, and I included Franco's comment on here because this is where we're at right now. I don't think your thought process is off at all, Joe. I think realistically, I think there's a lot of folks. The reason why I mentioned that podcast is because it was funny that you showed that card because literally the guy was talking through his logic, and the thought process was Bruce Lee is a cultural icon, a character, and it's almost like the Rock scenario, right? Because you've got the Rock WBF cards. Right? And you got the first Rock WBF card, and then you've got the one where he's at the Miami Hurricanes. Yeah, and then people end up kind of playing off this thing because if you're the fan of Dwayne Johnson, to be honest, you probably want both. Like to you, it's they all kind of go together. So you focus in on the character where he's doing that, or do you pay attention to the thing he was doing before? Because the Green Hornet cards would have been where Bruce Lee was there. He was, his character was prominent in the show, but then you later on, what you end up with is there are standalone cards that are Bruce Lee cards, where Bruce Lee is Bruce Lee.
Right.
So it's in that murky area. It's
right.
in that weird zone that you end up inside of.
Totally. But I am kind of intrigued with music cards. The other one I grabbed was this guy here, and I'm not sure if you're familiar. This is a Swedish Sam Skarlar. I'm trying to get it so that you can read the PSA case, but that's Bobby Dylan.
Yeah, so in the X5, gotcha.
And yeah, not a particularly high grade, but
Gotcha.
It's the only one I saw on eBay, and just the fact that they recognize it as an issued card to me seems like a worthwhile project. So anyway, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, you think about all the icons that have passed away. Tom Petty. You got David Bowie. You've got these folks that probably have a wider following even than many athletes, right? Because of the magnitude of music, the sweep and scope of music. You're going to have sports card fans that are musical fans, and then you're going to have a whole new segment that just appreciate, they love Led Zeppelin. Okay, where do I find me a Jimmy Page or a Robert Plant card? Are those out there? Can they be found?
Mm-hmm. I think where you end up now is you end up in the situation where you got folks that collect cards that are now transferring that mentality into like anything. What do you like? Is there a card for that?
Yeah.
Like that becomes like the question. Wait, is there thing? And I say jokingly, but one of my favorite things was, and I've chatted with Dave in the past about ECW in the old days of wrestling in the 90s and stuff like that. And ECW played a short run on TNN before WWE came on there to do it. Now, the reason I bring this up is that the lead-in, so ECW was the lead-in for a different show. And it was a show that ran for about 4 or 5 seasons. It was called Roller Jam. And it was basically professional wrestling mixed with roller derby. And it was stupid, frankly. And they had characters and the whole thing. But I promise you, if they had released cards, I'd be like, all right, I want to buy this stupid thing. I wouldn't pay top dollar for it, but I would get a kick out of getting some of those cards if they had produced cards for that. Just because I remember the show and I got a kick out of it, and it made me laugh.
Well, and I mean, there's just when you get into pop culture, right? Mm-hmm. There's so many people that you just sort of even forget about, right? Like the other day, somebody was talking about a Fonzie card, and I'm like, oh yeah, Fonzie. Like,
well, I think it was Jeremy who made that reference. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm just like, I can't even, to take stock, because you have actual pop culture historical figures, mm-hmm. and then you have the fictional heroes that are emerging, and how do they kind of, what's the equilibrium between those two? Luke Skywalker over here, Bruce Lee over there. Interesting. One was a real human that did play in movies, and the other was Mark Hamill, who had a pretty successful original movie opportunity and made the most of it.
Well, exactly it. But here's the thing. If you like Mark Hamill, so you've got that. Obviously, that was his iconic role that put him on the map, no doubt, no question. But he also had a celebrated run as the voice of Joker in the Batman animated series. That's a completely different fandom. Didn't know. For some, he is the definitive Joker voice, because he even did the Joker voice for a couple of the video games. So, like, if there was an animated series Joker signed by Mark Hamill, I promise you that's a collectible for somebody.
Yeah.
Because that link and that combination. That's what I say. Like, you can go down a rabbit hole of rabbit holes. Giamaz brought up a good one here. Just Les Paul and Mary Ford, 1960 Fleer card. There's a name.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
56 stars Sammy Davis Jr., Tony Bennett. Like, there's a million ways you can go. Edmund Fitzgerald refractor. That would be funny. Could you imagine now, somewhere off in the distance, I feel like Brian Gray's like, wait a minute. That's a great idea. I don't even own refractors. I'll call it something else, but we can do that.
Did you see the hobby hotline on Saturday morning?
I don't do Saturday mornings. It's a matter of personal policy, Joe.
Brian was on that with Jeremy and I forget the host name, but they were sort of talking about what Brian might do, because I guess he bought like the license to Pro Set or something like that.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Can start to create with that, and so that was kind of exciting to hear his thoughts, because I think he may have been mentioning, I was sort of doing chores as I was listening, but he may have mentioned that the possibility of entertainment stars being an area to kind of push into possibly. So I think we're going to see it. I think with this sort of expanding base of sports card collectors, it makes really perfect sense to both in modern card creation as well as in like hindsight looking for the hidden gems, to go into popular culture, find your Elvis Presleys, find your Marilyn Monroes, find your Madonnas, find your Tom Petty. I mean, there's just so many icons out there that I think people would get excited about if there's actually a single card. Maybe there's too many cards for anyone to be valuable much more than we've seen, but I don't know. We identify it. That's what we do, right? As collectors, we identify the one. I don't want to say we do it, because I think we're all a little counterculture in our card collecting habits, but sports card collectors in general identify the one. Usually it's a rookie card, and then they confer upon that this extreme significance, which is, debatable, but that's how we do it. And then that's the one. And then all the attention kind of gets, focused on that.
Yeah. I think it's filling in the void, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's not taken, what's not done. And I think that's how it's jumping on there, because of the money aspect, right?
I
believe.
think the Pro Set decision, the Pro Set purchase though, is a very interesting choice because I'm saying like, is there a brand with less equity than Pro Set?
It's nothing. There's actually
it's like, are you sure this is the path? This is the path you wanted to go down, Brian? I hope basically you paid the equivalent of a 1990, 91 Pro Set pack. I'd give you like $147 for it.
process. It's sublime. It's just the low end of the low end.
It's and the thing is they did it to themselves because
They did.
Pro Set conceptually, I think their ambition was interesting. I think Pro Set has a better legacy in football only because they came out with a handful of cards that were like okay, but then by the time
But the variations though are never ending.
They had a million issues. Like that was a million issues. I think they tried some stuff, and if they had actually held the line, they couldn't help themselves. They just kept printing because even when they came out with Pro Set Platinum. They came out with Platinum. The Platinum cards, if you look at the Platinum cards, not horrible for the time period. We've with them the context of the time period. If they had somehow been able to restrain themselves and actually hold back on printing, it would have been a premium product by comparison to some of the stuff available at the time.
To the Premier, actually, even at that point.
Because there's glossy on both sides.
Yep.
And you had a full bleed photograph. Like they weren't terrible if you just look at them in a vacuum. And you get away from everything else for the time period. Put them in their time period. Put them in 1991. Put it in a vacuum. Not terrible. But then print 5 billion of them. Terrible.
Well, people were buying and they just kept printing and they said, "Hey, the money train's never ending."
Yes. So let me quickly grab a couple comments here. So good evening, Brian.
Probably.
Didn't miss you. I wanted to make sure we got that in there.
Mr. Kingsley.
Yep. Leaf baseball. I agree. Their baseball products, they're trying, but it's not as good. It's just not very good. I got to say. Pro Set over Triple Play. I don't know, Bob.
Ooh.
I don't know. I thought, to be honest, Triple Play never tried to be more or less than what it was. Because I remember Triple Play, for the market they were trying to sell it to, Triple Play was not terrible. Pro Set, though, shot themselves in the foot, in the face, with a cannon at point blank range.
True enough. Yeah.
Yeah, variation. Nice way to say errors and corrected errors. Bill Belichick Pro Set rookie card. Yeah, that's probably one of the premier cards. Yeah, I didn't mind Triple Play for what they were trying to do. Pro Set errors were fun in early football. No, that's fair. And if you like them, I think if you're a person who likes the obscure, they had plenty of errors for you to chase.
I don't think they figured out all the errors in the Pro Set from football yet. Hockey is bad enough, but thank God I stopped at 89.
No, that's fair enough. So I think, Bobby, you've been having your connection issues off and on. Like it's been all night. So
even my wife says that, she's trying to play music and stuff like that on the, and it's just not going down well. So
can we do this, Bobby? Let me kind of direct this in this direction so we can at least try. I know we wanted to briefly chat. So Bobby wrote an article that was on Sports Collectors Daily. Let's address that. And he wanted to do a little comparison because he was talking about this isn't, we're not going to rehash the whole rookie card conversation as a whole. We're not going to do that. Not doing that tonight. I'm going to avoid it for a while. I don't want to touch it.
Highlights.
But I do think it was interesting because we chatted about it offline previously and he wrote the article about it. The difference between like a rookie card in a rookie year and the odd occasion where you end up having a subset card of the rookie in the same year and how you regard the two relative to each other. So can you give a little bit of synopsis, Bobby? I'll come back in 2 seconds, but can you give a synopsis of what the article was talking about?
Yeah, sure. The article was basically written in the sense that we have rookie cards, and they've always been classified as RC. And with subsets, and as actually Joe had mentioned before, the tertiary cards or the secondary cards or the subset cards are generally not really taken in much consideration. So what I have done and what I will be doing in my next price guide is, or the online version, I want to put RY. So as for rookie year, opposed to the rookie card, it's his rookie year. So at least it gets some kind of notification that it is a card and it's something that they usually, a record breaker, usually never an all-star, but a point leader, league leader, something like that. So a very significant card in the sense that, they're in their rookie year, they set a record, or they're the high point leader. That's pretty phenomenal considering anybody in the rookie card is getting a second card issued. So what I want to do is put rookie year on the on those cards just to define them a little better, rather than subset rookie or secondary card or tertiary card, as Joe would say. And we get away from that and we just say it's the rookie year. And actually, there's a few occasions, it doesn't happen very often, but there are a few occasions that that the rookie year, some cards were issued where they got a record breaker, but they weren't issued in that year. And then after that, they were issued in the second year. So I really want to get into the rookie year aspect of it and their percentage, how the difference is. I think I've analyzed it to about 10 to 20%, depending. When you get into graded cards, it's a little bit different. When we're doing raw graded cards, it certainly is certainly a different aspect of how we do a percentage basis on that. And I've talked to many different people, and it's anywhere from, honestly, 10%, which is the less amount of people, but a lot of people even go up to 50%, which is maybe a little bit too high in my opinion. I honestly think it should be, I put it 20% in my book, but I think it should be more close to 30 to 40% of the card value, or the rookie card value. And that's where I want to leave that at, and to see what people think about that, because I think it's very significant that any rookie that does something that they can get another card as a secondary card, that's a heightened performance of what they've done in their rookie year. I think it should have a little bit more significance to pricing. Not, I think I did a Bork comparison, which was 180 book value for a Bork rookie. And then we get down to $20 for a secondary card, or a tertiary card, or, as I say, rookie year card. And 20% is very low for a rookie year. And we have seen some prices going up in the rookie year card. I think which one just sold? The Mario Lemieux. I think a 9 or 10 just sold for $4,500, which was pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty strong. It's pretty strong.
It's coming up there. So I think there needs to be a little more significance, not for any particular purpose. Is, over the years we've been indoctrinated by the price guides. We look at the values. We go, okay, this is the. Before the advent of the internet and how much we've really gotten into, we always flipping through guides and saying, okay, well, he's 180 and his secondary, tertiary, or rookie year card is $20. And
can I ask a quick question? Can I ask a quick question on what you're directly alluding to here?
Sure.
So I think there's some validity to the point that that there's been some indoctrination based on the price guide. But for people that are newer, the price guide is reduced in importance. Like, a lot of people don't even refer to the price guide because they don't even know. They don't look at it. They don't even.
We're talking about pre-90 stuff. We're talking about vintage stuff because it's a little bit easier now. The rookie year is a little bit different. I think you can.
The reason I included Bob's comment here, because rookie debuts is basically exactly what you're talking about. Because in Topps Update, you can have, so Soto's an example. You've got a Juan Soto card in rookie update. That is his rookie. And then you've got his rookie debut card within the same series, same set, different card number. And that is not his rookie, considered to be his rookie. But at the same time, they put the rookie logo on it. It's in the same set. It's in the base set. It's not an insert or whatever. It's an interesting thing.
I think for people looking at that, I think they have to look at Victor Roman's, website and the blogs that he's done, all-time greats. He approaches the newer cards, opposed to, I'm trying to approach the older cards on a base value of a raw card, opposed to a maybe even a graded card of some newer cards. I think it would clarify it a little bit better if we could just do that. And let's just look at vintage hockey, like pre-90, and that's where I'm trying to get into is shift the thought pattern of people saying, it's 10% of the value. No, I understand if it's a PSA 10, but the grade of a raw card is near mint or an 8. What percentage should that be of a subset rookie card or a rookie year card?
Yeah,
10% is very low.
The reason I use the example though is to your point, for vintage, we know that we've got those examples that you cite. The
Sure.
reason I use something like the Soto is that newer collectors who haven't necessarily been indoctrinated in that line of thinking because they're not looking at the guide, they're looking at the current guy, and the rookie card and the rookie debut card, the ratio is holding. And it's very difficult to suggest that it's the guide because it was a newer issue.
Understood. And that's the preconceived notion of what the price guides used to represent.
But is it preconceived though if you're not aware of it? If you're a buyer and I can get it for a tenth the price, I'm not going to pay more than a tenth the price.
Understood. Perfect. That's great, Carlos. I understand exactly what you're saying, but I'm trying to say that if previously they had not been, let's so-called say, indoctrinated, would this still be a factor in today's world? Now, today's world is a little bit different. They're putting rookie cards on things that they really shouldn't be.
Sure.
And I know Victor clarifies a lot of that in his newer card sets that he's talking about. No, I understand that, and that's fine. But it's the preconceived notion of what has been and what is now. Mm-hmm. Whereas what has been, I'm just trying to sort of rectify that or adjust it. I'm not trying to get more money out of it. I just think there should be some more adjustment because of the indoctrination. Now, the indoctrination, and let's say at 1990, okay, we can cut it off at that point. Whatever they do from that point on, from 90 up or maybe even 2000 up, they can do what they want because it's so maligned with subsets, like super subsets and reds and greens, and there's so many different that it's hard to identify. And I think people are just going on whims and what the market thinks or whatever the market is. I have no idea who just the market. It's just sort of, there's rookie cards everywhere. Whereas I just want to get back into the old style of cards and how they should be, opposed to the new style. They can do what they want. There is a license between the companies and the NHLPA, and these are they have regulations that they have to abide by, and those regulations are sometimes omitted.
I get it.
Or missed, or purposely missed.
Yeah.
Because they understand that the base card, and this is what is supposed to be, this is a written contract between the two companies. And if they go beyond that, then they're wrong.
I get it. But we've had this conversation offline, and it goes back to enforcement. If the league doesn't care that much, then, which they haven't, they can't be unaware. It's in their face. It's being thrown constantly in their face. But
when you tie money into it, Carlos, we have to look at that part.
I get it.
It's better to have. I don't know how to put it in the right way. It's almost better to have confusion opposed to a straight sense of understanding. Because in this new card market, it's a little different world. This is this is that. It's so easy to expand on those words and say, this card is a really good card. I think it is his rookie card or it's subset rookie card, or they can get away with whatever they want. I'm just trying to take the vintage part. I don't really want to touch the modern part. You guys can deal with that and go on from there. I'm just trying to get the record of prior to whatever it is for the future. Is a different world, and it is a different world. It's a completely different world. We have subsets, parallels. You can count on 40 fingers how many different things that they do.
Yeah, I got you. So let's do two things. So I want Joe. There was a lot there. It was a steaming locomotive. I wanted to make sure Bobby had his chance.
Was it?
It was. But a lot of good points. But let's hit on this though.
Sure.
We can't separate the past and the present. We know the present is more confusing. We know it's murkier. We get that. But the idea that because maybe the price guide made a mistake and put these two things way out of whack necessarily makes it go into the present. It's tough to say that because now there's a whole bunch of people who didn't grow up with the guide per se, but they do believe that the subset card is less desirable and they're falling into kind of that ratio. Now, Joe, please, I want you to take a stab at it because you're familiar with what we're talking about. Because the subset traditionally has been lower by whatever factor you want to call it. But then you even look at the modern ones, we fell into the exact same pattern accidentally. And as a buyer, I'm not going to overpay for it just because, well, it feels unjust that the subset card is lower.
But, Carlos, one caveat before you speak, Joe. we have to understand that grading has taken over a certain part of this market that has changed the market completely.
Yeah, but
Opposed to raw.
the ungraded card is still following a similar ratio for a lot of those cards that we're talking about.
It may well.
Yeah, so it's like there is some consistency that I have seen in both avenues. Now, any thoughts on that one, Joe?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's for starters. I agree with Bobby. I agree with Bobby. I mean, I think it's absolutely helpful for people to associate a first year card released in a traditional set as having
I'm out again.
proximity to a rookie card, the true rookie card, if you will. So I think that's a benefit to collectors and the hobby to designate that as an RY. The other place where my brain goes to is that, I mean, essentially price. I like that you referred to it as the guide, Carlos. That was the or we used to call it book. Book value, the book.
That's right.
The good book, not maybe the good book. But
yeah, the goodness is questionable. Please continue.
Yeah, I mean, but there was always this question of, okay, so is the book dictating what people pay, or is what people are paying dictating the book, right? And in theory, it's supposed to be the latter, but in some instances, it sort of felt like the former. And I think, the only thing that caught my attention as Bobby was sort of unveiling his approach to it was, well, are you throwing a sort of stimulus package in the direction of these not considered rookie year issues, or are they really sought after? And I think my answer to that is, how high is the actual rookie card? Is the actual rookie card so desirable that people are getting priced out, so they have to move in the direction of the secondary, tertiary card because they just can't afford a good copy of the one that we all consider to be the rookie card, rookie card. So that's kind of where my brain goes, and I think it's a byproduct of the popularity of the player. So I'd be a little reluctant to want to just sort of confer across the board 30% value, because I think what you would find is that the GOATs, theirs would probably sustain a very interesting higher ratio to the true rookie card. Whereas as you started to kind of plane off in the semi-star realm, people might only have the interest in the actual rookie card, and unless they're just looking to kind of populate their collection with some cool versions of semi-stars, it's not going to actually have that same price ratio.
I think it's fair. I think the angle that Bobby takes on it, and a lot of the reason he's looking at it in a certain way, is that in his own book, as he's doing his stuff, he's trying to figure out and establish certain ratio, because he's doing his market research. He's trying to figure it out, and he looks at stuff like those early '80s cards, like the Ray Bork subset cards, and like I think there's a Steve Eiserman and a Mario Lemieux and Gretzky, maybe second year cards where there's some of that. But then you see those ratios between the base card and then the subset card, etc. And to your point, though, it's a case by case basis. It's this really tricky thing where it's like, that's why I brought it into the modern vernacular, because we have a little bit of that now with the rookie debuts and stuff like that. We have a little bit of that, but the rookie debut is less desirable. Like, and even if you go up the scale, the ratios don't stay exact, but they stay pretty close, because as I was accumulating, I used Soto just because I was buying those cards. As I went up picking up the different variations, they have a rainbow foil version. I have the rainbow foil of the rookie, and I have a rainbow foil of the rookie debut. And as I went along, the ratio stayed around the same as it was for the base card, and as it was for the gold, and it was funny that, now not exactly, there'd be slight variations, but more or less they would stick to this ratio. And I was buying them in auctions and open market. So it's one of those things where it's just like it kept holding over and over again. And it's at a certain point, it's like, well, you can't blame the guide at a certain stage, because it's like, who's reading the guide now for prices?
And the other place my brain went with regards, and Bobby's not interested in this because it's past 89. Yeah. But in a lot of these instances, you now have sort of insert insert issues compounding. So let's just say, you know, Mosaic basketball, right? Mosaic basketball has a debut card, has a traditional rookie card, might even have like a regular rookie card variation, photo variation, and then might have 2 or 3 insert sets of which a rookie might be part, to kind of, you know, populate the brand and kind of have some cool stuff happening. And so, you know, that's a different kettle of fish, I think, that, you know, Bobby doesn't have to get into. But when I think about it, like I would ask myself, okay, well, probably the insert card's going to have a less overall population, and so that might actually be more interested to me than something with an RY distinction. Although maybe, you know, Bobby would throw insert cards into the RY distinction, even if they're not part of the base.
Yeah. Well, ComC's done that because that's their, like Bobby's got his definition. And this is one of those things. When there's no definition, it's open because it's open to all of us kind of debating what the relative merits are. Because when we say RY, we're talking rookie year. Rookie year doesn't mean rookie year base. It's not RYB. It's just RY, rookie year. Well, that means anything in the rookie year. That means the parallels. That means the inserts. That means the insert parallels. It's open, right? Memorabilia, autographs, whatever. It's all under the umbrella. And I done that in my own, the concept, I borrowed it in my own collecting, in my secondary collection of Jamie Benn cards. I collect Jamie Benn rookie year cards from that specific year, be it parallels, autographs, memorabilia, base cards, everything I could get my hands on. So I took that distinction and took it to that from the collecting perspective. Now, when we're talking pricing perspective, it makes it tricky because you do have a little bit of, it goes back down to supply, demand, and scarcity, right? Because in theory, using the Soto example, the base card and the rookie debut are theoretically printed in the same quantity for Topps Update. There shouldn't be really a variance. So it's not one is rarer than the other, just one is more desirable than the other, and hence the prices increase accordingly.
Yep.
Because otherwise they'd be worth the same, or right around the same, or maybe one would be half of the other, but it keeps following into like almost a 10-to-1 ratio all the time. It's not accidental.
So did you get from Bobby there that he was sort of interested in representing these cards so that the prices would follow the sort of RY distinction, or what's the effort there other than to, you know, notify us that it's an RY issue?
I think the mentality was, and the kind of the context of the article was, and I'll bring him back here in a second. Now I think he's switched over to the phone again. But I think the context was he was trying to see, he felt like there's an imbalance. He felt like it doesn't make sense that the ratio is so off kilter.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone is arguing that the subset should be worth the same as the base rookie. But if the two of them are in the same set, it's the same player, and it's representing maybe an achievement, especially in those 80s cards, because a lot of times it was an achievement. You know, you broke a rookie record. Well, that's kind of good. that's kind of a good thing. And if you're a collector, you're probably going to want both cards anyway. So there's going to be a desirability there anyway. But the ratio was so far out of whack for so long that it just seems odd. And especially in this time where people are looking for every angle to be like, hey, this thing, and we're looking for food issues, and we're looking for off the beaten path cards and all these kinds of things. I wouldn't be shocked if in certain circles, some of those subset cards became like, well, now look at them as a value proposition. They're in the same set, in the same series, and the same everything. Why couldn't they be worth a little bit more, theoretically? So you can hear us now, Bobby?
Yeah, I'm just going to use my iPhone.
That's fair enough. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Did I represent your point a little at the tail end there? Did I represent your point?
Yeah, I did hear most of it. So, you know, and that's fair. Fair enough.
Yeah, I think the main argumentation point or the main thesis was just that it's been really out of whack in terms of the two, and maybe it necessitates at least a reevaluation, at least a consideration. Hey, let's look at this. Let's make sure it makes sense, and we're not just doing it out of tradition. Does that make sense? Well,
yeah, especially because the new cards are they're analyzed that way. Why cannot the old cards be?
Sure.
And
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to change, you know, prices for any other reason, I just think they should have a little bit more recognition. I think they've been devalued for too long. A lot of people say that, that's undervalued. And I don't think it's really undervalued. I just think it hasn't been given the recognition that it really needs. And I think Rookie Year is certainly a card that needs a little bit more definition or attention, or, as you say, reevaluation.
I think that's reasonable. It's one of those things. It's open ended enough where we could where it's probably worth a discussion, and it's going to be one of those things where it'll require a lot of hobbyists. Now the problem is, and this has always been an issue, even if you get a bunch of hobbyists, veteran hobbyists, new hobbyists, but people with opinions, and everybody gets even if we come to some kind of consensus, who's going to authorize this? Who's the commissioner of the hobby? Who's going to be like, all right, I pronounce it done. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to know what people think in the listening audience there, what they feel the percentage should be for a two-sherry rookie card opposed to their mainstream base card.
I think what's going to be interesting is I think you're going to get a cross section depending on whether somebody's a seller or a buyer. If you're a seller, 110%. If you're a buyer, 1%. If you're a buyer, 1%.
But it's just realistically, is 10% fair at a certain point, or is it 20%? I think it should be at least 20. Actually, my guide has 20%. Beckett has 10%. I think it should be at least 33.33%. It should be 1/3 of the value. And other people have went up to 50%. Not that I agree or disagree. I just think it should be at least 1/3 of the value, not 10%. 10% is just abominable. It's too low. It's too low for a rookie card. And what makes it that rookie card? It's a rookie year. A significant achievement to have more than one card in it. Most players who are well seasoned don't even have two cards in an issue, and for them to have that, and it's not like it happens often either. It's not like we're changing the world here. We're just changing a very small percentage of the players that do have a secondary card that achieved a certain record or a certain status of some sort, leading card, a league leader of some sort, and then they're tiered too as well. They're you can get into all-star, you can get into league leader, assist leader, all those other things. Super action, those ones are a little bit on the lower end of the scale, understood. So those are just my questions, and I'm just trying to adjust what I am doing with the price guide, just to make it a little bit more reasonable for people to understand how I'm going about it and why I'm going about it.
Sure. No, that's fair. So I do have a couple of opinions here, so let me grab a couple of comments related to it. So
I can't
Victor,
see them, sorry.
No worries. I'll read it. So Victor here says, beautifully stated, gentlemen. Recognize their value by identifying them for what they are, just in general and discussion-wise. Daniel's in general agreement with your thesis there, Bobby. Paul throws in here a percentage for you. So he goes, as he pokes his head in from ComC, he thinks 30 to 40% based off of the Gretzky 1980s O-Pee-Chee cards. His league leaders seem to be in that range of the player card. Now, ComC is its own marketplace as well, but like I said, I don't think it's unreasonable. I think it becomes tricky because it is still, I guess, for the league leaders and the subset cards, it's very much a buyer's market right now. It is very much a buyer's market where the product is out there, but people look at it and go, and they have no incentive to be like, yeah, I'll pay a record price for the league leaders or the subset cards. They're not going to run to do that per se. That's where it'd be kind of interesting. We could even take it outside of the sports world because Joe showed the card from Green Hornet. So with a lot of those cards from those series, you've got multiple cards maybe showing different scenes or maybe different sequences. I'm thinking like the Batmans and stuff like that. So, or we could use even the Star Wars one. So Luke Skywalker is card number 1, I think, Joe? Card number 1? Mm-hmm. Okay. So if he's there, say, having a conversation with Obi-Wan Kenobi in card number 46, they're both on there and they're both named. That's a subset card. Or an inaction card or whatever you want to call it. It's something different. It's not the standalone card. Maybe each guy has his own card as well. So what if you want to collect the set, how do you value them relative to each other, right?
Well, I think that runs into sort of the Plant prior to his rookie card. He was in action cards and a few other. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's the same principle. We took it out of the sports realm, but we took the same concept, same set. We're not worried about maybe a difference in print runs. Let's assume it's all the same. Let's keep it fair as possible. Same year, same set, same manufacturer.
Sure.
Make it apples to apples as much as we can. And then everybody can kind of ask themselves, like, where do you fall on that?
Mm-hmm.
Assuming you needed both cards, how would you price them accordingly?
Or what would be fair?
But that's the thing, though. Like, if you, whenever I consider that question, as a buyer, I want to pay as little as I can get away with. Like,
Don't
if,
we all?
if
I
free is
understand
fair,
that.
Bobby. Free is fair.
Well, one thought I have, and I don't know what the extension of the thought is actually, so
Go for
I'm
it.
just going to spitball it, but something that I would term patterns of acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
So if the pattern of acquisition is that we always go to the rookie card, that would create a different overall history of that card through the course of the hobby when cards were being collected, right? If it and over time, that would probably impact availability. The sort of supply and demand factors would be predicated on the pattern of acquisition that most collectors found themselves. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that should reify the price, being 90 to 90 or a 10% ratio, but I think there is some factor of the way that cards fall into collections and are held within collections in a way where people are like, I did what I needed to do to get this Gretzky OPT, and now that I've got it, like, it ain't going anywhere, and I'm not all that concerned about the other issues from that year. So I don't know. I'm just kind of postulating that something about the history of the hobby has already internalized some of this, and if Bobby's kind of unveiling a new way of perceiving that, and we're open to it, it may or may not completely hold in the sense that players, collectors are going to feel like no, this is the one, and I remember it from 25 years ago. That's the one we were all going for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. I'm just trying to adjust the margins on the perception and the past perception of what has went on with the hobby. I do mention in the article that we are indoctrinated, and it seems like a harsh word, but I don't think it's really as harsh as people might think. Is if we think something goes for a certain price because we've been reading a guide. Let's just say you found a stamp and the guide says this, then you think that stamp is worth that stamp, whatever you want to call it, ceramic, teacup, whatever you want to get into. We look at that perception and we see that and we understand that. And so we think it should go for that. There's a billion things on eBay right now that are well overpriced because they think that, hey, that's what it goes for. But it's not. So I'm just trying to put it in perspective of, this is a rookie card. This card is worth a certain value. What percentage should a secondary rookie card be? And why should a second year card be even close to the a secondary subset rookie card of somebody else? And then again, we have star power that kind of plays into a little bit of margins there too. But definitely, I'm just trying to flush the rookie year out a little bit more and say, hey, there's a little bit more significance here than may have been past represented.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
what do the analytics say actually in that relation between the secondary or RY distinction card with the true second year card? Do you have any like general ratios on that, Bobby, with like regards to hockey, I suppose, or something?
Well, I have looked at different guides, and I see it ranges, 10%, but it varies. It's when we look at, and I don't want to really use Beckett, but I want to just use price guides in general. They've been setting the pace for the last 30, 40 years with cards. And if you've been in the hobby for 20 years at least, you would say, okay, well, that goes for this. So you're sitting there with a raw card at your table. Let's just say a Raybook rookie. Okay, the guide says it's 120. The guy looks at it, he goes, so it's near mint. It's not near mint as it's guided, so I'm going to give you this percentage. So they're going off of this guide. How many people pull out guides? Hundreds all the time when we're talking about raw cards. And if you don't really know the value off your head, it's fine. PSA is a different world because they enter into, okay, the last one sold for this, and we can go through Card Ladder. We can go through all these different companies just to get a value of what a PSA 8, 9, or whatever goes for. But when we're talking about raw, we have to look at things in a different way. And I think that it really changes a lot in the perception of value when you're talking about raw opposed to graded. Graded is a little bit easier to maintain, I think.
It does. But one thing I'll throw at you as well, and then Franco's got a couple of related questions. We're still talking on the value train, still same concept. We're still sticking to the overarching theme. A little different question, but I want to touch on this as well. The other factor, though, as soon as you bring in raw, to your point, Bobby, if somebody wants to complete a set and the last card they need is the subset card, and they need it to be centered and they need it to certain condition requirements, they would likely pay a premium.
Near mint.
No, like it doesn't matter. Whatever the grade is. If I, as a collector, am building a set that has a certain aesthetic, I'm buying raw cards, and I want them all to be centered or whatever the case is, and the issue has maybe a centering issue, I would pay suddenly more than a conventional market price for the raw card. Even doesn't matter that it's a subset card. To me, it's like if it's the last card I need, and this is the only centered copy I've seen, and they have a notoriously bad centering, I'm suddenly paying a premium. And if the dealer knows that and they charge the premium, then and that would throw your comps out of whack, because it's like even the same card theoretically, I happen to be the perfect buyer for this card in this situation where I want it.
Well, I think it works the same way on Card Ladder and all those other companies, VCP and everything. We take the average of what goes on in the marketplace and we evaluate from there.
Yeah. But it's the same. But it's the same thing we talked about in a previous discussion where we talked about the price of the common card being weirdly out of whack. Where this is the price of the set, and then if we add up all the cards underneath, the two numbers don't match. And part of the conversation was, well, if I don't want to build the set, but I still want the key star cards, those have value to me where the commons have almost negative value. I'll take the set, but I don't care about the price the commons are worth.
It's almost a superfluous conversation to a degree, because if you're at a card show and you buy a raw card, you're going to look at the guide and you're going to base your price on that. If you're on eBay and you want to buy a dollar card, it's going to cost you $2-3 to ship it. So it's a $4 card if you need that single.
Correct.
So we run into this area that there's a lot of chaos in there among the theories of what people are trying to think. Now, if we can just get it down to a base level and say, okay, this is the price guide, this is the price of this item. You can negotiate up and down to a certain degree. This is the secondary or rookie year card, and this is the price it should be, and it's negotiated up and down depending on desire. So that always comes into play. When you get into PSA, it's a different world. We're in a different world. When you do a price guide, it's not a PSA price guide.
Yeah, I get it. That's fair.
So I'm just trying to be fair on my end of things. Okay, they say, I think somebody said to me, they goes, does anybody even use price guides anymore? I go, yes, they do at every show. Because you can't know every card in there and you can't know every price. If you're just looking.
The only challenge I think you're going to find, and this is just general, and you've seen it, you're experiencing it as we speak, is that you can see something that seems to be out of whack. You can bring up the conversation, which is what we're doing. We're talking through it. We're bringing other hobbyists in. We're discussing it. We're considering it. But if we go and look up the comps and they fall within a certain range, and percentage wise, they fall within a certain range, even if to your point, it's indoctrination, it's habit, it's whatever. If that's what's been happening, it's as a guide, you're in this weird position where you're like, this seems like it's wrong to me, but that is what is happening. So do I report what's happening, or do I try to accommodate for what I think should be based on the relative position of this card to the other card?
Yeah,
because that's really what we're talking about.
Great question.
Because that's really what we're talking about. Because if I'm reporting the reality and it says 10%, then it's 10%. If that is what has actually occurred.
But it's not always 10%.
I agree. But nothing is always. There's always exceptions.
Nothing is always.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do a guide, what do you do?
That's a valid question.
So you have to bring the information to the people. Like I said before,
Yeah.
I've had things in my price guide that people didn't realize what it was.
Yeah.
So they said, "Wow, okay, that's an old decal sticker from, I don't know, the 70s. It looks okay." And then once you go, "Oh, it's from Max Milk. It's from 1974." Then people go, "Oh, geez." And all of a sudden, those things go up in value. Now it was a $10 thing. Now it's a $30 or $40 thing. So until that information is brought forward, we are ignorant to whatever the market kind of assumes. So it isn't until we bring those things into play that those things are taking account of what information we have going forward opposed to what information we had of past. So we have to look at things going forward. We can't look at things of past. So I'm bringing things forward saying, this is rookie year. I'm going to notate it. It's always been 20% in my guide, so I'm keeping it at 20%. I'm not changing anything. I'm not changing anything. I'm just saying, look at my guide, and this is what the prices should be. It should be a little bit higher, and I think we're starting to see that in the PSA realm between the rookie card, not the big ones, but because you eliminate when you get to tens, that ratio.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
In the guide,
Yes.
are you going to have a section on methodology? It doesn't have to be called methodology. It can be called something similar. What I'm thinking here is, because at the end of the day, if you have your logic behind it, you can present it. To your point, you can present it based on what your understanding is, and just have a little blurb explaining. Because that's back in the day. Beckett used to have little blurbs at the beginning of the guide.
Sure.
No one ever read them. But they existed. If you paid attention, there was a little blurb where they would give tiny little explanations on certain things that would play into what was in the guide.
Sure.
They would have a little chart with percentages based on condition. They would go like, this is based on the price you're seeing in the guide is based on X condition. But if it's this other condition, we're seeing this percentage range, this percentage range, this percentage range. So it's that could be a way of you at least presenting it and then leaving it open to the readers to interpret and then.
Well, I think I always said
feedback.
that people say, well, why is this $150 in your guide? And I always say, well, that's the maximum basic price that somebody will pay. Someone will pay $200 or $300 because, like you said, Carlos, somebody's last card in the set, they need to get it and they don't care what they pay. But this is basically the max price. It can go higher. Yeah. But it will be lower too.
I think there's value to having that little explanation somewhere in there.
Yes.
Just to offer that as something. Just a little explanation, if that makes sense.
No, it actually makes a lot of sense. And it's hard to summarize all the information that I'm trying to get across with rookie year. And that's why the information was given. And I actually made an example of the Ray Borks. Well, not even the Ray Bork, it's the Gretzky and the first 5 cards in the 80-81 OPG or Tops issue. Is all of those are extended photos where there's very little border. And the margin of error is so low on those that those cards would actually be about 50. If you do a search and let's just say you did Ray Bork 80-81 and his tertiary card. I love using that. Sorry, Joe. His secondary card or his rookie year card, you will see that 80% are off center, near mid, offset. It just 90% of them are almost non-gradable to past the 9.
Yeah, no, I get you. Condition sensitivity. So, Bobby, there's a couple of comments that'll bring us back to this. Sure. Let's come back to it in a second, but I want to touch on it. But I want to quickly grab a couple of these comments because there's a bunch that have stacked up here. So Franco asked 2 questions that are very similar. This will be kind of fun for you, Joe, as well. This is kind of fun for me. So Franco brought up 2 questions, and I understand kind of the way that Franco thinks about this now. I've seen enough of Franco's comments, but let me have a little fun with this. So first one is question: what would you rather have, a Messier rookie that recently sold for $25K or a brand new SUV? So hold that for a second, and let me grab the second one. Would you rather buy a house or a Michael Jordan rookie? And here's the thing. My answer for both is, if you're wealthy enough to have it, you already have a fleet of cars and you already have houses. So you don't care.
Yeah.
And so some of the responses I understood because they say probably a house, good location. But if you are going to spend $600,000 or $700,000 on Jordan rookie, you don't need a house. You already got one.
Yeah.
You probably got one in the Hamptons. You're probably living on a palatial estate like Joe, a life of leisure.
Well, I
Like
don't know how
you
that
don't need
pertains to
this.
the rookie year or anything
These
like that.
minor pittances are irrelevant to you in the grand scheme of things.
Well, how does
Go.
that pertain to the question that we have on hand, though?
Yeah. Hold on. So go ahead, Joe.
No, I mean, just all of this is bringing to my mind one of the things that felt interesting, intriguing when I sort of returned to the hobby, or I not even returned to the hobby, but more just came into contact with more collectors, more modern day collectors, and the financial analytical brains that have transferred their, I assume their professional, in some cases, professional callings into hobby markets. And one of the things that has been intriguing, I like Michael Jordan, and I think that the Jordan insert craze of the 90s, is ripe territory to kind of think about how we value cards. And one of the things that I think is both intriguing and kind of differentiates the like higher end collectors is when there are no comps, right? When there are no real easily discernible comparisons to assess what a good value is. And I feel like there's collectors out there that actually kind of rejoice in that ambiguity, because it leaves that I don't know, it excites the excitement of the chase a little bit more to kind of figure out, like, what does someone else think, what do I think? And I think that's kind of happening all the time in the competitive markets that we might find ourselves in, short of just like breaking wax and hoping we get lucky. We're trying to find where is the value. Does someone else see this or understand this as valuable as I do? And if and when something truly rare comes up, how are we all going to, it's a little bit of a poker game, right? You got your cards close to your chest because you've probably run, and this isn't my realm. I can, we could talk a little bit about Dostoevsky, Carlos, or something like that, but financial analytics are not my bag of tea.
Sure.
But I do find it fascinating to see these great minds work, like they're really going deep. They're like, drawing all sorts of, comparisons. So if this is worth this and that is worth that, then this might be somewhere in that ballpark. And that's just what Bobby's thing. I think Bobby's doing it in a more deliberate and straightforward way in the pre-'89 realm, which totally makes sense. But the expansion of that into the current market is that it's so vertiginous in terms of trying to reckon any cross values that it's almost fruitless.
It is.
No, for sure. And I think the underlying part of the reason I directed it because the discussion. So I wanted to include these discussions as a kind of a in between here, because we do end up back at the price guide thing, because even like I said, so it did flow. We were going to get back there, I promise. But the thing was that you run into this problem. That's why I posed that question. That's why I asked the question. I said, as a guide, you run into this problem. And that's why I suggested maybe the methodology would be in order, at least a little explanation at the beginning of it, to be like, look, there's the data says this, but the data has these elements to it. But in terms of historically, in terms of condition, in terms of these various issues.
Precursor, so to speak.
Exactly. Something to outline your thought process on how you arrived at this, because then people can then go, either I agree with this makes sense to me, or they can say, I don't agree with this for reasons X, Y, Z, whatever. And then it facilitates a debate. And maybe in the long run, by facilitating the debate, you get people to think about it, and it then puts it at the front of mind. And then you get what you really want, which is the discussion. Because if enough people participate in the discussion, if you get enough people to participate in discussion, maybe you get the change you're looking for. Because then it becomes awareness, and then you're getting that portion of it. And if the market still decides that ratio is still valid, well, then so be it. You've done your piece. Because the market will still decide in the end. It's still going to be part of that as well. So I included Patrick's comment in here because this is the struggle of price guides. Because as you're saying, The indoctrination is Patrick doesn't like how they influence what collectors will pay, when the idea of the guide was supposed to be a reflection of the reality being experienced, but it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy sometimes.
True.
Which is why Beckett sometimes has gotten to the point, and we've cited examples like the Gretzky rookie. They kept it artificially low forever because they were scared to be like, so if we do this, then are people going to assume that we're making the market or that we're reflecting the market that should be?
But they kept it so low that it was way too low for too long.
But that's exactly it.
So
in a way,
who
it's
can
kind of the
trust the price
opposite.
guide?
So the market ignored them.
True. But then who can trust the price guide if they're not going to do the adjustments and they're not going to look into things?
Precisely.
And that's where I'm trying to come in and saying, I'm trying to be a rational person here and just say, hey, listen, this is the way I see things in a rational sense. This is what I've observed over the last 35 years of doing this.
Yep.
You know, at least.
Yep. You have to plug in your connection there, Bobby. When it slipped, they got disconnected. Yep. You just have to check your plug there. So yeah, now you can see kind of Joe where I was playing with this. I wanted to use the comments to get us back.
Yeah, I'm good.
Go ahead, Bobby.
So I just want to, I'm not trying to change the world here. I'm just trying to adjust some things that need a little adjusting. And we're not talking major adjustments. I'm not talking about, dropping any major bombs anywhere. We're just trying to maintain the level of consistency through the hobby and giving, turning an open eye to the rookie year, because it's been, what's the subset rookie card, or the second, what's the second Lemieux card? People don't even call it what it is. It's almost like it's not even existent. And meanwhile, he breaks a record with that card. I just don't see it being 10%. I just cannot see it being 10%. And it's been portrayed for 10% for 30 years. So that kind of bothers me a little bit. I don't care about the value. I really don't. I think the value should be, in a mental sense, should be adjusted beyond the 10%, opposed to.
So you do want to change the world, Bobby. Bobby, you can't have it both ways. You can't be like, I don't care about the value, but you guys got the value wrong and you need to fix it.
No, I don't care about the value in a physical sense that I have a vested interest.
I got it. No, I get it, Bobby.
I'm just trying to be rational in the sense of price guides.
Go ahead, Joe.
There's a lot of cards off.
Yep.
I mean, I don't want to put words into Bobby's mouth, and I am what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a couple things, but I think what makes sense to me is that if collectors are aware and made aware by, let's just say, the RY distinction, that there are these other cards that exist and that they have some significance because they're in the same issue as the rookie card, even though they may not be considered the true rookie card, that in and of itself might onboard more collectors to the thinking that, 10% is ridiculous. It should be like 20, 30, or, something in a different range. Now, if that's the project, that makes perfect sense to me. And especially, like, I'm a perfect example coming over to the hockey, it would be helpful to kind of see that in a clear way. Cause I don't know. I mean, we could talk about it in basketball or some other, the all-star card of David Thompson and the true rookie card of David Thompson or something like that. But in hockey, like, it would be helpful to just go, oh, okay, there are the 3 Gretzky cards that were released in his rookie year or even his second year. And then go from there. Right. It's not like it's dictating anything, but it's providing information and context so that people can do whatever the hell they want to do.
I think you said it right, Joe. It's information. And, when we get to Gretzky, we're not talking about second year. We're talking about just rookie year. And that's the only thing I'm really discussing. Second, third year, whatever, that's where the market will determine. But with rookie year, it needs to be adjusted because I think it's been askew for too long.
Right. So I'll grab a couple of the comments here to get us caught up.
I can't read them because they're too small.
That's all good. It's all good. I got you. I did have some fun. I was saving it. I was waiting for the moment because Franco loves your take, Bobby. Loves your take. I'll read it to you. So Bobby, nobody cares. Period. The rookie card will always sell for 90% more. But my favorite part about this was he said, Bobby, nobody cares. Well, we spent how long discussing it, so somebody cares. But the best part is, well, rookie will sell for 90% more. Well, actually, Bobby would like it if it sold for 90% more. If the subset card sold for 100 and the other one sold for 190, he'd actually be kind of cool with that. It would be almost a 2-to-1 ratio. It would be an improvement. You got to check your math on that one. Check your math. It's a multiple. You're looking for the multiple, not 90%. If it was 90%, actually, Bobby would back you on that.
I don't care what the price is. I just want it to be a percentage of
Yeah, I got you.
the actual value, and that's only fair. It's not, and I really have to almost give it to Beckett because they've been the major influence, and I know that Charlton had copied them for so many years, and everybody copies everybody. If you actually go on and see how many games Terry Sawchuk played in his pre-rookie year, it says 4 games, but I have the programs that says he played all 6, and I have the newspaper reports that he played all 6, and we everybody copies everybody down the road, and I don't want to see that happen in this hobby, and this is my hobby, and I want to see things done right, and I'm just trying to rectify those things in the right way. So, getting back to the Sawchuk, do we take the advice of, every internet website that says, oh, yeah, he only played 4 games. Oh, and he got, okay. Yeah, he didn't. He played all 6 games. And everybody copies everybody on the internet. And that's wrong. And same thing with Beckett, and same thing with Charlton, and same thing, not the same thing with the VHC. The VHC is trying to be different. It's trying to be accurate and trying to be fulfilling for everybody who reads it information-wise, and trying to give them as much detail as possible. It's not just a regular day at Beckett, it's a regular day at VHC, and we want that to be as good as we can give to the people. This is for the people, by the people. Boy, that sounds like a...
I was going to say, are you campaigning at the end?
It almost kind of seems like it. I'm because I'm a collector at heart. I grew up with this stuff, and I want this to be part of my hobby, and I want to give back to this hobby the way I see it as a hobbyist. I don't want to come in as a business. I'm not a business. I make a penny an hour. What kind of business is that? So I'm kind of coming in from the angle of rationality and trying to rectify things as I see it as collectors. And I've talked to so many other collectors, and this is sort of a reflection of them through me. And like I said, I'm always the hobby sponge. I'm always trying to give the information to the people through the information that I've taken in.
So where this takes my brain, I already mentioned Dostoevsky, so I'm gonna go down the literary slope here for.
Oh my goodness, he's going down the literary slope now.
Oh boy, here we go.
Well, I mean, so you probably are aware of Don Quixote. So there's Don Quixote.
Oh boy, here we go.
Book 2. In book 2, Don Quixote is aware that he is a fictional character and that there's a historian following him and chronicling his great adventures. And he's this sort of metacognition element of oneself being a fictional character in a book as it's sort of happening is this strange, postmodernist feeling. And it takes me to the ways in which the sports card world is trying to make sense of itself, and people are very passionate about it. Bobby, you're passionate about it. I hear your passion. The people doing card ladder, the people doing market movers, like there's these ways that the historian, if you will, right, the objective reckoner of data and the narrative that we are paying attention to is a kind of intermediary between the collector and the actual experience of either acquiring the card or pursuing the card or getting the card, tilting at windmills, whatever it might be. So I find this interesting that it's like maybe this is also a discussion about how we are, to the degree to which we have any objectivity, any sort of narrator that's capable of being omniscient and dispassionate in their providing of specific details of a story that's going to lead us in the direction of feeling this way or that way. So I'll turn it over to you, Carlos. I get
Bobby was so moved by your words that I think he smashed his phone in frustration.
I hope we didn't just break up.
He's been struggling with that phone. I don't know what he's doing. So anyway, I wanted to have a little fun. So let me go here. So let me grab these comments. I'll get us caught up here. So I was having fun with good old Franco because he was complaining here earlier. So he says he's trying hard not to sleep, and as soon as I saw it, I had a smirk on my face, and I was like, my response was just like, don't fight it. I always enjoy when someone goes in the comments and like complains, like, well, dude, go away then. Like I'll help you. Unclick. Start watching a different video. I don't care. Like I know Bobby is very passionate about it. I want to let him have his moment to say his piece because he is going to keep working on his guide and try to do it. I will try to help out in the way that I can to be like, oh, we got to reflect the market a little bit. If you've got an angle you want to take on it, well, then include that explanation. This is your methodology. This is how you arrived at your figure. The people will figure out if they want to do it or not. So we'll kind of see what happens. Paul did enjoy your reference to Don Quixote. So we got Brian here says, yep, some rookie substantive variation. Rookie year cards should be worth more than 10%. Victor here, I wanted to catch up on the comments because I was checking this one. I wasn't sure what this one was about. So Victor says, I make half a penny an hour. Bobby makes more than I do. We need a union. Well, I don't know if you guys can get the union started. Give it a try. Boston Kid is passionate about his 81 tops PSA Gretzky. Fair enough. Bob Lewis, exactly what he's going to say. I'm assuming it's about the union. I don't know, Bob. Can't you get a little stroke with a YouTube Hall of Fame? Can't you give YouTube Hall of Fame, use your patch? You could probably start the union, Bob. Use it by your authority or patch. Give that a try. Paul says the hobby loves tilting at windmills. Yes, they do. Your Don Quixote reference was spot on and enjoyable. So let's see here. You all know the card you know is awesome. Enough said. Yep. Bobby disappeared. He had his fun with his phone. I don't know. He'll probably join us. We'll see if we can do it. And Victor says you're awesome. You give deep perspective. So Victor was enjoying your 2 cents on that one.
Yeah, I mean, again, it just takes us back to what we were discussing. Is the guide reflecting the buying, the actual buying habits, or the actual buying habits reflecting the guide? And now that we don't have a guide, well, there's a guide. I don't know too many people that use it. Even looking at that, the footage. I don't know if you watched that Sasha T. Dallas show. He's going through. I didn't see a whole lot of cards that one would even be in the book. I mean, like the things people have out on tables these days, they're like, they're like 3 to 50K. It seems like. I mean, there's
this one, Joe. This is where it gets interesting because I'm glad you brought it up. I do enjoy watching Sasha T's stuff because he's doing some really good content right now. But the thing is, and Beckett has already abdicated this. Below a certain threshold of scarcity, there is no guide value. So it's like, make up your number. The value is whatever you as the buyer and the seller come up with. Be that $1, be that $1 million, be that $5 million. It's whatever you come up with. So in a certain way, the super limited market is your example of what happens when the guide doesn't exist, because it's for some of those cards, there's no comps either. So you've got nothing to go on. You're just guessing. Card Ladder plays it trying to guess based on a multiple of another card that trades more regularly. They're saying like, okay, so if normally the base Prism sells for $100 and normally a Prism Gold goes for, 100x. So then, okay, 100 times 100, 10,000. That's our number. But it's a guess because maybe it applies, maybe it doesn't. Maybe that applies for Michael Jordan and LeBron. It doesn't apply for, Marvin Bagley. Maybe that won't work for Marvin Bagley. The multiplier doesn't work anymore. So then it becomes that. So now you got a range of multipliers. Okay, so where does he fall in the range of multipliers? Is it 10x? Is it 100x? Is it 50x in between? Is it dead square in the middle? Uh-oh. Now we've got a new problem. Where's your multiplier? Even if you got a range of multipliers, you still got the same problem. And it matters because it's what somebody will pay, right?
And then you throw in verified sales.
Correct.
Which, I mean, and I guess that's kind of what I was getting at. Like, I don't actually have a perspective necessarily on it, but more of an observation. Just like Bobby's passionate, I think there's a lot of people that are passionate when people are presenting information as from this data, we can generate a narrative, and here's what the narrative might be, right? Like, I think as soon as you start that process, there's going to be people questioning everything,
Yes.
all from beginning to the end, and that's that. Like, I don't know if we're going to get to the bottom of it, right? Each and every sale probably isn't verified. Each and every data extrapolation is probably not 100% valid, and so you get into this full sort of murky area, which is both fun and beautiful, and also at times exacerbating and crazy making if you're on the hunt.
I think that's fair, and that's always created that kind of interesting thing. That's why I say, like, that's why I enjoy watching content like that, because you're getting a sense of the horse trading, which you're really getting into, and you're getting a taste of the justification, because the dealer has their justification, and part of the justification may be something like, I have this much into it, so I can't go below X. You may think it's worth less, but it gets kind of tricky. It gets kind of difficult. So, and now as a buyer, I also want it for the lowest price I can get it. Logically, like, I want to pay as little as possible. As a dealer, you want the maximum. So you're trying to find this weird happy medium. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of odd. So I'm with you on that, and that's why I say, like, the whole guide thing goes beyond the basics. It goes beyond the number in the guide, because it comes down to methodology. That's why I suggested, you know what? You might want to include a page in your methodology, because that's as critical as anything else, because it's like a movie review. And I'll use this as an example. Maybe you really hate action movies. So maybe when I watch a review by you on an action movie, maybe I'm going to weigh your opinion a little less than someone who maybe has an opinion on action movies that is more in line with mine. But then I can calibrate. But maybe on period piece dramas, you happen to have some tremendous insight. So if you're reviewing a period piece drama, then I'm totally going to listen to what you have to say, because, okay, my history says that you are a good resource for that.
Yeah.
So then I use the information you're providing me accordingly, depending on the genre that you're covering.
Right.
That's how that can always work.
Yeah. So then it becomes more just about transparency of your metrics and your way of presenting the information, gathering the information that allows everybody to hopefully not be a sucker or a blind witness of whatever it is that's being presented, but understand. It's like when they do the top 100 greatest baseball players. It's like, okay, like some degree of an understanding of how you're arriving at this, right? Like, where are the Negro League players in all of this? Where, what factors have you, if somebody died early but would have had a longer career, or, Ted Williams going off to war, are these things factored in? How do we factor them in? Because, they have impacts on actual data. So you can be data driven to some degree, and then there's other more human circumstances.
I think that's fair. And that all plays into it. It comes down to how important is a guide, even how much weight do you give to it? And you may run into this point where some of the guides might only be useful for certain things. Traditionally, the vintage has been pretty stable because it's been pretty stable. That's been its help. It's been saving grace. But then in modern, it's all over the place. It jumps, it drops, it jumps, it drops. And it jumps and drops daily. So, like, no guide is going to have any value. So from that perspective, Bobby's probably a little better off sticking with vintage, because at least it has some stability. But even in this market, there's a lot of movement, right? Mm-hmm. We're resetting certain records all the time. So, like, yeah, what you wrote was valid yesterday, but not today. So it changes up. That's why I say the methodology might be more valuable than the numbers themselves, because at least you can say, okay, look, this is how I measured these two. And if the numbers change, this was the multiplier I tried to use. And this is why. And once they went in, it's like, okay, that's how that went. I think that will have some potential value. And I think the write-ups and the pieces that he can add, I think that's going to have more value than the actual numbers themselves, because by the time you print it, it's no longer valid. And that tends to happen. I want to make sure I get a couple of these comments, so I was having some fun with this. So Bob Lewis says here, you want me to silently judge you as the dealer? Pull out a Beck and ask how much something is. It didn't used to be that way. Yep. Boston Kid quickly asks, so this is an interesting one, Joe. You're less familiar, you're less in the world. But do you have a favorite hockey card if you were going to pick one?
Do I have a favorite hockey card?
Yeah. Do you have a favorite?
I really only know of the magnitude of hockey cards. It's the Gretzky rookie card because
Yeah.
that's kind of the only one I really
Yeah.
own.
I kind of figured that would be. I'll bring you on in a second, Bobby. I can see you. Give me 2 seconds. We'll get you there. So we'll quickly go through a couple of the comments here. I want to quickly catch on here. So Justin's got a couple of the different rookies, a couple of the high-end ones. For Brian, hockey's the fourth sport. Totally fair. 66 tops Bobby Orr. That's a great one. So here we go. So I caught this section of comments here. I wanted to make sure I got to it. So Paul says, Bob, judgment of a YouTube Hall of Famer carries weight. And then Bob says, yet I get a description of baseball and basketball Beckett. Way to ruin it, Bob. I would never miss the opportunity to point out that Bob ruined it because that's what Bob does. Yep. Want to make sure we get that. So let me scroll down here. Yep, hockey's fourth as well. Sacramento Kings lose again. My condolences. They tend to do that. Okay, so we'll get Bobby back on here, and we'll grab this comment here. I think Franco's done for the night, but we'll grab it. So whoever's investing big money in car city will regret it once COVID is a thing of the past. 100% guaranteed book it. It's like, well, for some of them, yeah. For other ones, maybe not. It just depends on the card. Other favorites include the 54 Topps Gordie Howe. That one's probably my choice. 54 Topps Gordie Howe. That's an iconic card. 53 Parkhurst John Belleville. All right, Bobby, you back?
Yeah, I'm here.
You trying to break your phone? Like I saw you fiddling with it right before it went offline. You're like, oh, I think Joe was saying something, and you were so frustrated you spiked your phone touchdown style like Gronk.
No, it just I had to plug it in because the battery was low.
I got you.
Yeah, it's just been a nightmare tonight. Is there a full moon?
I don't know. Not sure where we are in that cycle, but
full moon. So, anyways,
yeah. You've had just about every technical problem we can have.
Pretty
You've done
much.
the whole. So, Paul, we don't have a bingo card for that, but maybe we should have a bingo card for technical issues on a live stream because I think we hit it. I think we hit it.
Yeah,
We might have done it.
I'm it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm it today. I don't know what's wrong with Rogers. Actually, it was acting up yesterday too, and today. I don't know why. And it's intermittent, so it's it's fine and it's not. I don't know what's going on.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, I see my router is just it's flashing good now.
Nice. So Bob here grabs 90-91 score Lindros. That was a good one. That was a classic card at the time it came out, especially. Boston Kid's a vintage collector. Totally fair. 90-91 score said it's great. Agreed. Welcome back, Jeremy. He's popped back in. Sounds good. Dealer told him years and years ago, vintage the only game in town. It's not a bad place. It's not a bad place to be. So let's see here. Hockey guys are holding it down. Yep. There you go, hockey guy. That is a bingo. I mean, it was on earlier. I think it's past his bedtime. Usually the original iteration of the Sunday stream was when I invited Amit on, and we did the Sunday because Amit thought that was the easiest day for him to get away from the kids, past a certain hour. That's how we ended up at the time slot, and the earlier ones were shorter just because once we reached Amit's line, it was basically done. He wasn't really good to go on much further. Yep, he was kicking around a little bit. That's it. Meat's got to be done pretty early. It works out. Sounds good. All right, now we're caught up. Beautiful. And we hit a bingo, so that's exciting.
Yeah, I missed all the conversation there, but I guess
no worries. The long story short on that was just that we were talking about the concept of the guide currently, kind of what role it plays, what it can be, and I was saying that I think beyond the numbers themselves, I think a lot of it's really going to come down to that section of methodology, because at least that leaves people with the ability to try to make a critical choice, because we're using examples of stuff that is so rare that you can't guide and there's no valid comps and you almost have to make up the price. And that's like the purest version of supply and demand. Like, this item is there and it's rare. And if you put it in front of the right audience, it's worth X. But if you put it in front of an audience, well, I could take it, I guess. It's Y. And it's the same item. But it just depends on who wants it, how much money they have, how much money they're willing to spend at that time. Because there's no comps, there's nothing directly you can draw to. You almost have to make up the price on the spot and figure out something you agree to.
Well, I have never made up prices, to be honest. It's always
no, but the thing is, a lot of the stuff you're talking about, at least you can base it on some research. I'm talking about a genuinely piece unique item. because there's some items that are low enough where we talk about how Beckett's out of touch with some stuff, but at a certain point,
Certainly.
they've abdicated their responsibility. Below a certain rarity threshold, they won't even bother. They literally won't list the price.
I put rare.
Yeah, exactly. Like
you have to.
they say like, I can't. Even if I wanted to try, like it depends on the day, the direction of the wind, the moon, the stars, and who's around that day, and if they have cash.
And they never come up to market that often. So
Correct. Exactly.
yeah, and
So
I don't tend to price those things. I leave it as rare, and you know, if we can gauge 3 or 4 of them on an open auction, yes, then we can sort of put a price to them. But otherwise, it's very difficult.
Exactly.
And when you get into rare grade, sometimes doesn't matter so much. It's about the rarity that'll overtake it. So it's very hard to. Well, I got a near mint, you know, extremely rare, one of a kind, kind of. Yeah, very difficult. Very difficult.
And that's why we made the distinction. We just said that those are examples, though, of the purest form of supply demand and who happens to be there that day with money. Because it could be the same item and we could rerun it 500 times and come up with different numbers depending on who's around and who makes the offer and when they do it and the time of the day.
Well, we have seen the Bert Corbeau, which is the rare card of the 20s, come up a few times. And, you know, it's easy to say that a VG goes for 25,000, but what exactly does it really go for if you had a near mint and didn't have a punch through it? There's so many variations to that. It's just, you just have to leave it as rare. And I'm not willing to take those prices on. I'm not here to set prices. I'm just here to guide people through the raw versions of what might be available. The rarer stuff, it's open-ended at that point. It's just rare and whatever you want to pay. And a lot of people ask me, what do you think that's worth? I have no idea. You know, you can't know everything. I'm not that perfect person who can just quote prices out of the blue. You know, PSA 10, it's easy. Oh, PSA 10, Lemieux rookie, he goes for this. It's so easy to quote that. But when you're talking about raw and you're talking about obscure, it's a very difficult thing to. And I don't want to ever bring upon myself that responsibility of pricing things. I have to go with what the market affects things to whatever the grade is and to whatever the rarity ratio is. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult to do. So
Hey,
I stay away from that, and I'm just trying to get rookie year in there just to say that it's rookie year. And, you know, my basis of my prices has always been there. It was in my last 2015 guide, and it's going to stay the same. Beckett is a little different, but they haven't adjusted anything except I think the Gretzky rookie card of late.
Yeah, they did a little while ago. They moved it up. It's been moved up, I think, a couple of times because it was at 900 forever, and then it finally did get adjusted a couple of times.
Yeah, and that was kind of a shame. They should have adjusted a lot earlier than that, but that's okay.
Yeah, but it's what we talked about earlier. Like they were afraid to do it. Go ahead, Joe. You were going to say something?
I guess, yeah, I'm nothing too apropos to anything other than the general conversation. And what emerges for me is a little bit of like different collector sensibilities. I think there's an interesting creative tension between the collectors who like to deal in pieces that are a little bit more firmly fixed and understood, and they could be small and they could be large. You know, that those collectors, you know, maybe prefer a bit more certainty, a bit more concrete, you know, comps out there that allow them to feel like they know exactly what they're getting into. If they want to, you know, 86, 87 Fleer PSA 6 Jordan, they kind of know right where it is in the population count. And then I think there's some intoxication for the collectors that are getting into things that those price valuations are really tricky to gather. And you know, can they find the golden goose, so to speak, of the card that has not been, you know, valued in the way that maybe it ought to be, and there's some sort of chase or interest in doing that, you know, both to acquire the card, but also to do the math or the thought experiment of where this ought to be reckoned. And I'm sure I overlap in both of those areas. There's times when I just kind of want to know, okay, meat and potatoes, I want this card, where should I be at? And then there's other cards where like, wow, there's a real opportunity here, and the opportunity might be in my favor or it might be at my own detriment, depending on how I come into this conversation or this understanding of what this card is doing, where it's going, where it's been.
Well, Ken the Golden Goose has set some pretty big records on some other prices that we can't really make a lot of sense of graded cards, but you know about that, Carlos, very well.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, I want to see what the long term of it is. I'm enjoying. I'm having fun with, to bring it back around to the original topic, the beginning, because we can. I'm having fun right now watching the Ken Golden show. I enjoy it for certain aspects. Like it is. I have fun with. That's why I said. I said it earlier. I said it earlier in the show. I said, look, Ken Golden is fun because he's got this company. He's built it, and Bobby's been around long enough to know that Ken Golden's been around a while. Ken Golden was running Scoreboard in the mid 90s when they were doing well for a stretch, and then they ran into some trouble in the early 90s with a lot of business in the hobby did. And basically that company, I think it was Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And then he rebuilt himself and came up with the auction house. And it's in the last year or so that he's really like the auction house isn't in the last year. It's been around a little while now, but it's the last year or so where it's like risen to prominence. Because if you remember the big Jordan card that Nat Turner bought, the Jordan PMG, it sold, I think, for $350,000, and that wasn't Golden. That was, I think it was PWCC, I believe. I could be mistaken on that, but I know it was a different platform. Mm-hmm. That was the one that kind of reignited the, oh my God, look at these prices going in sequence. But then Golden started to take it because PWCC had that for a cup of coffee there. They were running the big auctions and people were watching them very closely. They're still watching them, mm-hmm. But now Ken Golden is the it guy, and Ken Golden is getting the investment, and he's having his moment. And he has ambitions. That's why I showed you guys that clip. I wanted you to see that he is saying, at least out loud, that he has ambitions. I want to see how it plays out. The Ken Golden show is still fun for me. I'm enjoying it.
And you're so right.
There's something to talk about.
You're so right about Ken Golden. He was, a few years ago, Golden wasn't the big one. It was Heritage. It was, and then you back it up and you go to Mastro, and then you back it up and you go to Leland's. There's been always a premier guy, and Golden is the guy of today. That's all.
Yeah, and I will say, a master marketer who is doing an excellent job creating his own Ken Golden brand.
Well, we're into the blog era that everybody's promoting, and this is why he's got the marketing behind him. Not to say that the internet wasn't around back then, but now we're into the heightened sense of the internet, and he's utilizing it to his advantage for sure. Yeah. I understand that.
Go ahead, Joe. Oh, you're muted, Joe. You have to unmute yourself.
Apropos to Justin's comment here, Ken Golden looks like a character. I don't mean this in any negative way, but he does. There is a certain sort of, Lex Luthor kind of out there in the world. And
thank you.
Sure. Yes. He's a wonderful guy, but he does have a sort of larger than life persona that, makes you wonder, like, am I watching, a movie or something here? What's going on?
I watched him reach for 4 different kinds of drinks inside of his Instagram Live. He had the Perrier, he had the Diet Coke, he had another drink, and then I think it was back to the Perrier, back to the Diet Coke. It was inside of the same, it's like he took one swig of each one and then kept rotating through them. And I was just kind of observing this, and I was like, I enjoy the idiosyncrasies, I enjoy the consistent name dropping, because for God's sake, it's fantastic. It was a tour de force, and you get about 60 to 90 minutes of a show. He brought on Timbaland, and I think they talked for like a minute and a half, and then he kicked him off. Timbaland, I think, spent $600,000 or $700,000 on Jordan Rookie, and I think he might have gotten a second for every $10,000 he spent. I think that's how much airtime he got on the Instagram. And I was like, man, I don't know if the Super Bowl gets these kind of rates. I spent $600,000 and I get about a minute and a half. Amazing. Fantastic. That's why I say, like, I was enjoying it. It was the Ken Golden stage show. He had his thing going on, and he was texting, and he was talking, and he was doing it while doing it, and he's talking about his grandiose plans. That's why it's kind of fun. You get to sit there and listen to the grandiose plans. We'll see if he's able to execute. Like, if he does, I think it'll make things interesting. That's why I say I'll take it seriously in the sense that I'm confident he's going to try. We're going to see what the execution looks like. That's the key. He's going to be, can you've talked it up. Can you do the thing that you said you're going to do? Because at least you've got the initial investment. You've got some big players throwing a couple of bucks your way. Is that going to be enough? Or is that phase one?
Yeah.
That's question two. Because he's still going to be part of it for sure. But now he's going to have another CEO as well working with him as part of that thing. And they're going to, I'm sure the CEO has their vision, and he's going to be looking out for the interests of the investors who are part of this game too. So I think that's part of it. So I'll just read the big units comment here. The cards have become an alternative investment as the value of the US dollar drops from overprinting. Commodities and alternative investment will increase in value. Now, Justin referenced Bitcoin earlier. And the thing is, some of this money is moving just because people are like, okay, I don't want to necessarily sit on a bunch of cash per se. I want to be able to put in some other stuff as well that maybe is appreciating. Cards are just one avenue. We talked about the Marvel cards. We talked about potentially comics and other things. It's like people are just looking for places to put the money right now because there is some inflation there. There is some more money being printed, and they're just trying to find another angle. And cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin is just another angle. Now there are institutional investors. Bitcoin is its own thing. That would be an entirely separate conversation that could take a while. But the point is, there is an aspect of some people throwing some money in there because they're like, oh, what the hell? Here's another thing that we can try. Trying to diversify, trying to put your hand in as many pies as possible. And there is a little bit of that too.
I think Ken Golden's other drink is absinthe.
I'll leave that be. The opinions expressed by Bobby Burrell are those of Bobby Burrell.
Every time he feels that way, he's gonna do.
I don't have any issue with it either way. I'm just enjoying it for what it is.
He's out there. He's doing stuff that other people
is.
aren't doing. So that's on another keel, which puts that drink into perspective there.
So I don't really have enough understanding of economics to weigh in on this this U.S. dollar conversation that seems to be going on in the chat. And I'm not entirely like, it makes sense sort of intuitively that hard assets, quote unquote, would be a antidote, so to speak, for overprinting of the dollar. But I'm not quite sure I understand how or why that is, other than just a sort of place to put money. And all that presumes is that you have money to place.
Okay, so let me bless you, Joe. Bless you. For one of the this is one of the wonderful opportunities where I get to use the history degree a little bit. Thank God. Okay. One of my favorite things to study was the World Wars and the interwar period and things like that. Short version, so really high level. The most extreme example from that interwar period was the whole German hyperinflation. And people generally understand what hyperinflation is. It is that the value of the currency drops quickly, like super fast. Like by comparison, the US overprinting or not, and they are overprinting, but it's digital now. So you don't actually print. You're not printing anymore. Now it's zeros and ones. That's what you're doing. You're just putting money into the economy. But what happened in the example in Germany was that you'd get your paycheck, and it got to the point that people were getting paid daily and sometimes multiple times a day. So you get your paycheck and run to go and spend all of it on stuff. You go get food, you go get furniture, you go get whatever. Why? Because by the afternoon, the money was worth half of what it was in the morning, and all of a sudden that money would be effectively worthless. So the end result was you did everything you could to get it into a hard asset. So while the dollar was worth nothing, or the mark, the Reichsmark, was worth nothing, I think it was still the mark. But anyway, the mark was worth nothing. The piece of furniture would still be worth something. So if you wanted to trade a piece of furniture for a piece of furniture, the piece of furniture were still the same. Their value still held relative to each other, even though the dollar, or the mark, had no value. So yeah, so here it is right here. So you get your pay in a wheelbarrow and take it all to buy a loaf of bread. That's basically what happened. It reached the point that kids would play with stacks of marks and use them as wallpaper because they were worthless. But it would take hours. You'd sit down to have a meal, be quoted a price, and by the time you go to pay the tab, the price would cripple before you finish the meal. And the restaurant would be like, yeah, you're going to have to pay for that right now because in another hour, that's going to be worth half of what it just was. So we need to get the cash out too. That's hyperinflation. That's a super extreme, super extreme. But what happened as a result of the super extreme is that it became a necessity to run to spend it. Now, in the modern day, we're not anywhere near that ridiculous extreme. But in a smaller scale, the dollar is worth less as we go along. It becomes easier for people to just throw cash out. Right now, what is it? It's stimulus. Stimulus is more cash in the economy. It's cash being brought by the government. It's technically your cash, but it's being borrowed from the future to pay for the present. But it's more cash. And as it goes along, more appears and more appears. Most of the money usually gets put into businesses. It usually gets put into larger scale things. So you don't get to see a lot of it except for the odd stimulus check. You get these little dribs and drabs. But the big businesses gets a lot of it, and that money circulates. And all of a sudden, these larger items are more expensive.
So, but with non-essential items, let us say, it still amounts to the fact that there's an entry point and an exit point.
Yep.
And so if the hard asset is potentially vulnerable to an exit point that is suddenly disastrous, is the impulse to go into hard assets. I mean, I can understand like diversification, but just in and of itself, in a siloed universe, is the impulse to go into hard assets actually sensical, given the magnitude of potential disasters that could occur if it was a true depression?
Well, no matter what, though, it doesn't have to be a depression. So I gave the most extreme example to show like the most fervent extreme, where the common man at the base level ran. It was a flight to hard assets out of necessity. Like it was urgent. You had to get into something. Because let's say the piece of furniture was worth 100 marks. And then, inflation went absolutely rampant. Well, what happened on the other side is if you sold the piece of furniture, you'd sell it for 1,000,000 marks. So even though the furniture's worth more. Well, in relative terms, it's worth the same. But what happened was the amount changed. Now, that was a super extreme example where it was multiples over hours and days, and it's the ultimate example. Zimbabwe had the even bigger one, where you can get the currency. I bought a set of the novelty currency where it's in the trillions, and it's in numbers with more zeros than you can possibly imagine on the currency. They had their hyperinflation, which is the record-holding hyperinflation. But in the normal world, things don't move that fast. Your car, your $50,000 SUV didn't suddenly become a $500,000 SUV overnight. It's not that extreme. But next year it'll be 52,000, maybe 54, and then in a couple of years it'll be 60, and it moves. The price of your house is more than it was a year or two ago. It moves in these slow things over time. You used to be able to get a loaf of bread for 30 cents. Then it moved to 50 cents. Then it moved to $1. Then it moved to a couple of dollars, whatever. On regular items, it moves seemingly more slowly, but it appears in other places. And but when it comes to these assets, though, these people are assuming that the item is going to move up faster than the inflation. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to either maintain or stay ahead. Because those assets, if they still hold value, it's a risk. To your point, it's a risk factor. No matter what, it's a risk. But holding cash is also risky because if the cash is worth less, well then, while you were saving the cash, you actually weren't saving anything. The value of what you're holding is worth less.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I bring it up. That's what I say. It's a very complex issue, but this was a simplified version of it that hopefully at least conceptually understood it. That's why something like a Bitcoin right now, some people are trying to treat it like a currency. Some people are trying to treat it like a store of value. When I use the word store of value, what that really means is it's not going up because Bitcoin is worth more. It's going up because Bitcoin is finite. There is a certain amount, there's a certain limit. I think it's 21 million Bitcoin. That's the maximum.
Yeah, but they're
amount that can
releasing that
exist.
till 2030.
I think, well, actually, I think I saw that if it maintains the current rate, I think it's supposed to be 2140. It's going to keep slowing down and slowing down and slowing
Yeah.
down. Now, in reality, I doubt that, but the point is that it's still a finite amount. And whatever's in circulation currently, that's what's in circulation currently. And it moves much more slowly. Well, if it still remains valid in 5 years, there's only going to be a certain amount more compared to what's today. But the dollar might be worth less. So it would go up simply because of inflation alone.
More than likely, yes.
Yeah. So that's why you have to measure everything. That's why when you get an investment, a real investment, a hashtag investment, when you get one though, whatever the gain is, you then measure the inflation into it and deduct that to get the real increase. Because you have to factor that in too. If inflation is 2% and your thing gained 5%, you're actually about 3% ahead. Not 5. It's 3. Factor that in because that's important. That's a real important number for people to be aware of. But right now, collectibles are moving faster, right? Like the Jordan PSA 10 has gone from, maybe it'll crack 100,000, $700,000. Okay, well,
Yeah, I know. Where's that come from?
yeah, we've jumped a lot. We've jumped a lot harder than normal. So there's a lot to that. So-
Carlos, do you want to jump into the 1910s?
We can if you think your connection is stable enough to
Well,
handle
while we have it, I'm just saying.
it. Okay, no, that's fine. We can get it back. So give me a second here. I'm just getting through the rest of these comments here, getting us back. Because we were talking about some serious Pog talk here. There's some serious Pog discussion happening here.
That's not going to take off. I can guarantee it. It's like the tech rock. It's not going anywhere.
I don't think anyone was serious, Bobby. I think it's wonderful we could bring up Pogs. Yeah, and Paul's looking up absinthe right now. See, Zimbabwe. Thank you, hockey guy. Yes, that's right. Yeah. So US dollar is like it's like 1%, 1 or 2%. Yeah. I wouldn't. I'm gonna leave that one alone, Justin. I'm not gonna take that 1 or 2% number.
Yep.
Stay
Stay away from that one.
It's a little more than that. So what is the 57 Parker's Frank Mahovlich worth when hyperinflation happens? Well, that card will be basically not essential. Well, it could be hundreds of millions. Hundreds of millions.
Might be.
Hundreds of millions. The problem is your cup of coffee will be about 50 million. So it might not be as impressive as you thought originally.
True enough.
That's the way it works. Okay, so here's what we can do. So Joe, I want to be cognizant of your time. Bobby we'll see if his connection holds out. Anything else you want to bring to the table?
I do kind of need to sign off here, but
No, that's why I wanted to leave an opening for you.
no, thank you. And I may listen in and join in the chat as I wind down this evening. I know this has been fun and I appreciate it. It's been a little while, so it's good to get some Carlos in my world, and Bobby. Always a pleasure. You guys are great. And 1910s, I'm assuming that's going to be a dive into some hockey. So I'll take.
Yeah, we're going to be touching on the C55 set. Bobby's going to give us a little background on it. We were chatting about. Normally we would have done it a little earlier, but he was having enough technical issues where we weren't going to attempt that fade.
We're well into it now. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot. So
Right
let's do a little streamlined version of it, Bobby. Let's give it a go and see if we can manage it and if we can get there. So do you want me to try to share the article that you talked about earlier?
Actually, I have it all.
Okay, if you've got it, you're more than welcome to share it. So what'll happen, Joe, is you're more than welcome to hang in, drop off anytime you feel free. But I appreciate you hanging out. Thank you for joining in. Appreciate your insight, and I enjoyed the conversation as always. You're more than welcome as always.
Fantastic. Let's do it again sometime soon, and I'll be listening to y'all.
I'll reach out later on, and we'll schedule a time, and we'll hang out again because it's always fun. It's always fun to have a good conversation.
And we didn't quite get to talk about PWCC's clinking the cases together, but we'll return.
Oh yes, that's right. You're right, 100%. Well, I'll tell you what, Joe. Let's do this. I will ping you. I'll reach out to you through that. If there's another way to communicate with you, feel free to throw it in there as well.
Good.
Yeah. So let's talk and. The next time around that we have a chance, we'll bring you on because I think that's still valid no matter what. that's an evergreen discussion of, hey, take care of my stuff. Take care of my stuff. It's a good discussion.
Sounds good. Okay, take care, y'all.
Take it easy. Have a good one. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
All right. Yep, sounds good. So whenever you're ready, if you want to try to share it, feel free.
All right, let's do a share and video file, share screen. Share screen. Let's get out of here. All right, here we go.
Okay, so I can see it there. So when you're ready and you got the thing up, I'll put it up on the screen. Okay, so we'll do, Bobby, is let's do, so because I did get a chance to read the article, so I have the background. We're going to be talking about the C55 set. If you could give the Coles Notes version, it is one of the early hockey sets. A similar allegory, not the same, not exactly the same, but similar conceptually to like a T206 set in baseball in the same general era.
Yeah, very much the same. You know, well, the article I sent you was mainly about the Walter Schmale, which, you know, he had a variation done. And what the comparison was to the Sweet Caprals that were issued in 1911, and they also issued the cards exactly the same, but they actually took away from the original photos that were on the postcards, and they put them on card.
Yeah.
In that point.
And I think the way I would present it is that, so on the left, we have the Sweet Caporal postcard, which was the inspiration for the image on the right.
Yes.
But then you can see that there's some variations. They took some artistic liberties, let's say. With the design.
They did, with many of them. And I'm going to go through them from number 1 to 45. And we'll just look at the variations and take it from there. And once I get to Walter Schmale, I'll explain a little bit about that one. So here we are, you know. Basically, we have Patty Moran. Most people don't know their names, but you know, these are all top respected players of their time in the 1910s. There was only 3 issues issued: 1909, 10, 10, 11, and then 12, 13, which was the C57s. So we have Patty Moran. We can see where he played and how many times. You know, how many different teams he played with: Haley Burrell in Quebec and the Montreal Athletics. So we have Joe Hall, another very well known. And they look at what they did to him. It seems like they tried to incorporate a stick, maybe to get away from the lacrosse. A lot of these guys played lacrosse, so I think they tried to get away from the lacrosse, even though the sticks are here in the design. I think they tried to get away from the basic, because they played both sports. They tried to get away from that and just to make it more hockey. That's why they put the arms there and a stick going across there.
Now, quick question while we're talking
Sure.
about it. So for the backs there, in contrast, like I said, example to I use the T206 just because it's the most commonly known for baseball. Yep. It's a very common issue. For obviously in this issue, we get hockey players, we get the name, we get some biographical information, some history of the player, and card numbers, which differs, of course. Is there any reference to it's hard to see, but is there any reference to like a manufacturer or anything to it about who it was produced for?
You know, it's really kind of funny because we did talk about the printing stone before that it was issued. We finally find out that the first issue was through the printing stone, and they had cow and chocolate, so we knew it was Canadian. This is the only issue, which is kind of funny because the C57, which is the third year, it duplicated the C56s very much the same, which is the first year, 1909-10. They duplicated the backs. Now, this year looks very English to me. Like, a lot of people said, well, why do they look English? You know, I think because on the back of the Sweet Capital cards, it says made in England. Now, I think that was just the paper stock was made in England. The pictures were, you know, they ordered the pictures, then they got the pictures produced here in Canada. We haven't found any information on that, and it's very rare to find any information on, you know, who produced them at this point. We know it's Imperial Tobacco, but we don't know how these were issued. The Sweet Capitals or the postcard photos you see on the far left there, we believe that they were issued publicly. However, there's a very limited set, so a lot of people have said that they were issued by teams, by the team itself, and only to the players. So how many players there are on here? How many? We have 45. So they think there's only 45 sets known. But we have seen postcards written, so we really don't know 100% on that.
Paul makes reference to kind of what you're talking about as well. So
What's
for
that?
him, they're strikingly similar to English tobacco cards.
Oh, the backs are for sure.
Yeah.
The other ones aren't so much, but this one is, and I've always said that. Now, does that mean anything? Not necessarily, because we know the printing stone was found on the C55s, which was the first year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the second year set. They look very English. However, we don't know. Why would they be printed in England, shipped over here when they did the first year here, and then they would sub it out to England? It doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense.
Sure. No, I get it.
Just saying. So Bill Holden, we have Joe Malone, very popular star, and you can see how they, the graphic artist here, the hands look contorted.
Yeah, there's the worst example we'll get to, but I think the main concept here is whenever we look at the left and right, is that we see those artistic liberties, because in almost every case it's like the guy's arm is to his side, but then suddenly it's in front of him.
Well, I think they wanted to add this stick because they wanted to get away from the lacrosse, but even still, that could be a lacrosse stick too on top of that. But
it could be,
Yep. Ed Oatman. Another great star. Played for Waterloo in 1909 and Quebec 1910 and 11. I think the first thing that a lot of people don't realize is that the first cards are the C55s, C56s were issued in 1909-10 because the hockey season was a little different, and these were issued in 10-11, and C57s are 12-13. So. They didn't have a big schedule of 80 games. I think they had like 12 or 14, 20 games, something like that. It was very small in the comparison. I think his name is Tim Dunderdale, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of these guys are very obscure, and most people have never heard of them. Malin is just another, McDonald. Who do we have? Fred Blake, a very popular player too, as well. Now we get into the full size, away from the torso picture or the upper body bust picture. We're getting into a full picture, and you can.
I think that's the first time it actually seems like an accurate representation of the left versus the right. Yeah.
As the rest will, as you see, the larger pictures, you can see they're very much mocking the same picture from the postcard to the player card. It's almost like the artistic. Liberty they had before was very poor compared to what they did now. So his stick is there, his hands on his hip, it's perfect. So a little bit similar, but pretty close with Marty Walsh. And number 12, we have Habby Shore. Very similar again. And Alex Curie. Bruce Redpath, very good player as well. They did a really good rendition. I have to give them credit for the artwork that they did on the facial. It's very close. The bodies are another thing, the gloves and what have you. But I
think what's interesting is that sometimes it feels like they took an artistic liberty for absolutely no reason. Like if you look, the angle in the hands is only ever so slightly different. Then why bother?
Yes. Exactly.
There's actually no reason. Like it's a very slight difference in this one, but it's slight. But there is a difference.
But the faces are quite well done.
Sure. No, that part I agree with you. But I'm like, why in this case would you, like here again? Why would you even bother? You put the stick in the middle instead of on the side.
Yeah, I think.
But his arms are crossed. It's the same.
To give it more, presence here, opposed to just down, up, and down.
Great.
So.
Okay. Sure.
Well, this is probably the first time anybody's ever seen the Sweet Caporals compared to the C55s.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. I'd like to have a conversation with the artist. Like, really, did you feel like there's enough room there that the stick could have been exactly where it was and it would be fine?
Basically, you're right. They just, hey, it's 1909, 1910. What are you gonna do? Okay, so we have Percy Lesueur. Now, I kind of skipped over one thing here. Percy Lesueur was the announcer for the French version in the 30s. He was the announcer for the French of what Foster Hewitt would do for Canada English. He would do for the French.
So he was Radio Canada?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he would do the announcing for the games in the French, because they had the, at that time it was General Motors.
Oh, okay.
So General Motors would produce through Foster Hewitt, and then he would do the French side of it, and that's Percy Lesueur, which is Perce which they have Percy. The French spelling is a little bit different. And Le Sour, it does change a little bit. So that was very significant. So he looks a little different. Pretty close. I just thought it would be nice to tie that in there. Jack Derrick, very famous star as well.
And that one, the stick is almost the correct angle. Like it's actually, it just seems random. Like sometimes yes, sometimes no.
The hair is perfect. The face is actually very, very well done. I have to give them credit. These postcards are very unique for that time period. These postcards go for $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, depending on who it is.
I can imagine.
Very hard to find. Now, did we say they were limited? I have no idea. We don't know if they were issued only to the team, families, or we have no idea at this point. But there's very few of them around. Steve Vare, another one, born in Barrie, Ontario, played for the Wanderers, Montreal Wanderers, the Edmonton Cobalt, Renfrew, all the teams that were the NHA at that time, National Hockey League. Don Smith, another nobody, but he's a totally different shot. Here you go. Look at that. He's holding his stick across. That'd be a great shot if it was here, but they have him holding with another contorted hand again.
I think they'd have to back it all the way up for that to work.
I think they would have.
He'd have to be kind of standing back a little bit in the background a little bit.
But this does no justice just having his hand on the stick and a little bit of stick there. So it would have looked a little better going across here. So there we go. Fred Taylor. He was a crazy guy. A lot of people said that he was quite a player. He was actually one of the best players of the time period. And he looks strange in his picture there. They kind of normalized him a little bit here, but he had that eye thing going on here. It's kind of that guy's crazy, you know.
But notice no stick on that one.
Not actually, they did nothing to him at all.
That's what I mean. Like I say, are we sure that isn't the crazy? he's like Fred Taylor will find you if you do something weird with a hand contortion thing. He will find you.
Yes, you don't want to screw with Fred Taylor. Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Like, would you want to mess with that guy? I wouldn't.
See, Bert Lindsay, they gave him a little bit of a hand there.
He was less crazy, so he gets the weird hand. He
I
gets
guess. Yeah. Very passive. L. Gilmore. I don't know his first name. I'd like to know him.
He's literally slouched in the first picture.
He looks a little chubby, but he's very thinned out here. So this
is early Photoshop is what you're trying to say?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Bobby Rowe. Another great player. Renfrew was a very good team. We have Sprague Cleghorn. Now, he was a short print in one of the anonymous sets back in the 30s. So
okay.
And then his brother, Odie Cleghorn, made it. And their father played professional hockey as well. Don't know much more beyond that. This is going back early stuff. There's very little information to share with that. Skeen Ronan. That's a very interesting name. I don't know anybody named Skeen.
Well, also it appears that part of the deal here is that he doesn't know how to hold a hockey stick.
Well, actually, he obviously doesn't here. But
no. But I mean, is in the other picture they're implying he doesn't know how to hold a hockey stick because I don't know what the heck that is.
It was the 10s. They played with little short mini hockey sticks. So here we go. Okay, we're at this point of Walter Schmale. Now, Walter Schmale is the only card in the set that actually they changed the design. If you look at his first issue, his arm is kind of deflated down the left side, and the right side, his hand is very contorted. It doesn't even look normal. So I think he must have complained and said, well, this is nothing close to my picture. And then they reconstructed and reissued his card with his hand. One's called hand on hip and one's called hand on stick. And the hand on stick came after. So it's obviously rectified. They fixed up the artwork and so he must have complained at some point in time. So that's actually, I think there's a 40 to 60% ratio. So 40% went through and then 60%, they fixed it early on in the production run. And then they went on to the regular one. So there's not much difference in price, but there is something on the back. There was a period and one without a period. So we have a difference between. You have to remember we're on printing stones here. Some of the touche or the ink can fill in, or the wax can fill in on the period space, and it can be missed. So I think that was probably the problem with this issue. So people call this another variation. This variation only happened later on when they fixed it, when they fixed the hand on hip and did the hand on stick.
So the two back variations are only in the corrected version.
They are.
Okay, got
well,
it.
the one is no. This one is this one's fine for the regular. This is the one without the period is the one ladder.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and people look into that because there's certain variations to cards, and I understand that there's a lot of money on the line when people are looking at variations. Almost superfluous, but still significant to a degree. But we'll leave that one alone. That's Walter Schmale, and he's the main part of that set for the most part, other than the bigger cards, of course. Ernie Johnson, another great player. He looks like a brute at that point, does he not? And then you get into Jack Marshall, Harry Highland, Art Ross. There you go. Named the trophy after him, the Art Ross.
So this is one of the big ones here, name-wise, that people would know, that whose name is continued on beyond the player themselves. A lot of people may not realize that it's like, nope, that was a person, and he played hockey back in the day.
Yeah, the Art Ross was given to the highest scorer at the end of the season or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, goal scorer. You look at him here. He looks.
It was points for the Art Ross. Points for the Art Ross.
Yeah. Riley Hearn, a cool name. Not too many people called Riley anymore.
I do think it's interesting with that one is that they also changed the shield on the logo.
A little bit, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little tweak there.
Yeah. Artist renditions, and same thing here. Mm-hmm. He's holding the hand in his. It's sticking in one hand and the other hand the other way. He's really got the big ears, though, so they're really pointing that out there, right?
Well, Hockey Guy had a little bit of a crack at one of the earlier players. He was saying that he was holding a broom. He was a sweeper, a.k.a. janitor. But here's the thing. Gordon here looks like he's holding a broom. He looks like he actually should be sweeping right now in the back.
Yeah. Talk about primitive. Look, they have no shoulder pads. They have no... It's just a sweater, and I don't even think the pants have protection.
I don't think so. Not in that era, no.
But at that time, they're using short sticks. They're about 40, 45 inches long, very small. There was no slap shots allowed, and they didn't even invent the slap shot until I think Boom Boom came in the league. So you're looking at 50s. So the puck really didn't come off the ice very often. So to have this upper protection, I didn't think they really needed it. But for slashing and what have you, I'm sure a lot of that went around. So that's why the gloves are probably predominant. Hand behind his back, hands not behind his back. But a good rendition again, Fred Glass. Another good player. Ernest Russell, I don't know much about him. He played for the Wanderers, Montreal Wanderers. Okay. They won a lot of Stanley Cups, that's for sure. A lot of the Wanderers players here. James Gardner, Arthur Bernier. That one's superimposed there. You can see that, isn't it? And that one is too. He must have been traded late or something. Because opposed to other ones, you can see how this is imposed on there. On both pictures. So
you're saying it's an early traded set update?
It may well be, yes. It's rookie year, but not rookie.
Right.
And same thing with George Vezina, one of the biggest cards of all time, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say George Vezina is like the key card, I think, in this one here. He's the biggie.
He is certainly the biggie. Now, him being a goalie, it's kind of interesting. Well, goalies had two gloves. They didn't have blocker and catcher at that time period, so I'm sure there was a little something to adding that stick there. I don't think you could differentiate the stick at that time. I think there was only one little bump at the bottom that made it a little thicker. But other than that, I don't think. Oh, yeah. 1911, Chicoutimi previously. He was called the Chicoutimi Cucumber. That's a heck of a nickname. And then you have Dallery, I think his name is Dallery. I don't really know his. This another guy who's very good pitcher, like very good reproduction, but don't know him very well. Don't know most of these guys, to be honest. R. Powers, I don't even know his first name. Some of them you do know, but okay, Mr. Newsy Lalonde. Oh, I got the wrong picture on the front. Oh, there we go. I screwed up. Okay. I knew there'd be a screw up at one time, but it looks like him, doesn't it? Is that an error?
I was going to say, I don't know.
I never even thought about that. Is that an error? D. Petrie, and I have. Oh, I got Eduardo Lalonde. That's my mistake. Okay. So I got the wrong back there. My
Okay,
mistake.
so the back's different. Yep.
The back's
Well,
different.
I think you can also see, is the number not on the front as well? On some of
40.
these?
Yeah, there is 42 right here.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah, that's wrong. So my mistake. So that's whoever. Okay, so we had Newsy Lalonde. His name was Eduardo, actually. Eduardo Lalonde.
Okay.
Very interesting. He's actually named Eduardo in his lacrosse card.
Okay.
Very interesting, but very big star. Probably one of the top goal scorers of his time. Another nobody that we really don't know. EPN. Mr. Poling, no idea again. But there you go, superimposed again, a lot larger. I wonder why they did that.
His face also looks sort of airbrushed.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Chiseled chin here and a little bit more rounded here. So, and the last one, number 45, Jack Laviolette.
Yeah.
So
And for some reason, his head is more tilted.
a little bit, yes. I guess they had the picture tilted a little bit when he was drawing it, but actually,
guess so.
that's a great rendition if you really look at it.
No, I think on the whole it looks accurate, but it's just kind of funny. Like it's like, yep.
And he's
And also, he was a big fan. He was a big fan of being a chimney sweep as well.
yeah, very much so.
That seems to be a thing with some of these guys.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's the end. There's 45 cards in the set. It's a great set. Obviously, the Vezina is the main key card, and I think, just like I said, one of the first times we've compared the postcards to the cards being distributed in tobacco.
Yep. And what year are the Sweet Capital postcards?
Same year.
Okay, so same year, and these are the inspirations for the images in
Yes.
the C55 or C56?
This is C55.
Thank you. C55.
Yeah, 55, although is not the first issue, it's the second issue. Because the American Card Catalog and Jefferson Burdick, he didn't really do it by date. He just did it by number.
Yep.
And unfortunately, he had 55 before 56. And that's just the way it worked out.
Fair enough. Sounds good.
That's it.
Awesome.
It's all there.
Drop it off. It was interesting. I know when you sent it originally to me to do the little comparison side by side, it was kind of fun to see the comparison of the players to the other image, because you don't always get to see the image that is the inspiration for.
Yes.
Kind of makes it interesting in its own way. And obviously, early hockey series and famous set, like big time iconic cards, because the Vezina, I think, is in the what they call the Mount Rushmore. Like PSA has its registry, and the Vezina is one of the 4 cards that constitutes the Mount Rushmore. Deservedly so. It's a big time card, without a doubt. So it's one of those ones where, because hockey doesn't have the pre-war presence of like a baseball where you can pick a lot of different sets, but as far as iconic cards, that's one of them.
Well, you said T206, very comparative. You know, you have to, put it up against a few other T206 cards, which you can. Well, I don't think you can put it up against too many. The Vezina you might put up against. Who would you put it up against in the T206? I'm trying to think of the baseball.
So you talk about in terms of scarcity or key card?
Yeah, key card.
Then it'd be the Honus Wagner.
No, not the Honus. No, that's too far.
So then maybe the Cobb. You could do one of the Cobbs.
What's his name? Oh, I can't think of the other guy's name. Jeez.
Some of the other rarities in T206 are
Crawl,
based.
I forget his name. Sorry about that. That's baseball, so
Yeah.
I know hockey.
Pitcher or something else?
No, someone else. He's about $50,000 card too.
Doyle?
Nope. No. I don't know why I'm thinking crawl, but it's
Yeah, there's a couple of condition scarcities that are not the same. The Wagner is the iconic card, but
Yeah.
there are some other ones that are considered right there in that top echelon, but some of them are errors. So there's like a Maggie error.
nope. Yeah.
Doyle is another one that is considered one of those top tier ones in that set.
hmm
And then I think there's one more that qualifies as one of the.
I think it's the one more that we're missing out on.
Yeah, I'll find it. It's okay.
Yeah, you got the Edward Lalonde, you got the Art Ross, and you have the Vesna. Those are your top three. The other ones are, they all fall into the medium. There's a few in the lower, but for the most part, a very iconic set, very early stuff. Obviously, again, printing stone. They look English, but they had to be printed in Canada. The funny part about it is the C57s, which is the year after or 2 years after, they went with the same backs as the C56s, which is the first year, 1909-10. So it's funny how they changed. They had the two backs, which were exactly the same, the reverse with the cross sticks, and then they went to a new design in this year, which very interesting. And then the Sweet Capital postcards as well. And it says on the back of the Sweet Capital postcards that it says printed in England, which is, that doesn't really mean anything. The Cowan tiles from 1962, they were fired in England because it says, made in England. But obviously the company redid them once they got them from England. So they were manufactured in England and then produced here with the screening on top. The screen art did the players' pictures. So as much as something was manufactured there, it was printed here. So the postcards were probably plain, and then they printed them here at that point.
I think that's fair. I think that's good.
Yeah.
So and it's fortunate the way they ended up making that set. Fortunately, because they didn't do all the ridiculous back variations and all that. If someone wanted to collect it, they would need deep pockets, but it is doable. Because the Vesna will cost you a pretty penny, without a doubt, but you don't have to worry about these weird conditioned variants as well as far as back variants, because you're going to have all these different variations for some of them. So the other ones were Joe Doyle and Sherry Maggie, and also Eddie Plank. Yeah, so Plank would be he's considered the second most desirable card in the big four, right at the top of the
Vesna right in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but again, not cheap. I won't go that far, but it is attainable if you're willing to cut the check, so to speak. Then you can get your hands on one, and a 45 card set, it's a lot less intimidating than the monster at 524.
Yeah. Then it's different variation backs just kill that set. Whereas the hockey is pretty simple. One back, very simple.
Yep. You just have to accept the fact that some of the players took some artistic liberties. Bunch of random hockey sticks, a couple of brooms.
Well, there's two different issues. So artistic liberties are sort of the set. It doesn't really matter because they're consistent through that set. Because we're comparing two sets here. Although one picture was based off the other set, I understand, but they're two different sets. Okay. How the Sweet Capitals were issued, we really don't know at this point. A lot of speculation. Until we find real information, I don't think we can say. But there's very few around, and they go for a lot of money when you do find them. And they're quite good, very quality, as you can see. And those aren't even high resolution; those are low.
That's fair. I just wanted to include Charles's comment because we know Charles has a propensity for including some obscure players. So Harold snaps this rookie, and I'm like, that might be true, but if a tree falls in the forest and no one wants to collect it, doesn't make a sound.
Yeah,
it might be like. So which year is that one? Harold Snepsit's rookie. You got me on that one. I have no idea. The name doesn't ring a bell.
70. Oh, he played Vancouver. Snaps was 70. Jeez, I don't even really know. 76, 77? Tell us, Charles.
Yeah, so you're saying it's car 396? Well, yeah, so towards the end. So 75, 76.
I'm 75, 6. Okay.
So I believe you in terms of condition sensitivity. That was also a really ugly set.
It wasn't the best set for sure.
Like it wouldn't be my first choice, and even in the 70s, it wouldn't be my first choice.
I like the display box and the wrappers, but beyond that, the set wasn't the greatest.
But fair enough. Bonus points to you for bringing the obscure card into the conversation.
Yeah, true.
I would argue, Hockey Guy, I don't think I said it correctly the one time. If I could say it correctly at one attempt, I think that would be like a good starting point.
It might well be, right?
Sounds fair.
That's
Sounds fair.
kind of funny.
Yeah, but thank you, Bobby. I appreciate that. I know we had technical issues. Otherwise, we would have put a lot earlier. We would have put a lot earlier in there. But we thought it'd still be good because we talked about it and we thought it's still good to have some fun with those segments where we can, talk about some of these sets and historical because it is a little different. And we still got a tremendous amount of conversation, a lot of different aspects of it. We kind of worked through it, and thanks as well to Joe for participating and hanging out.
Yeah.
While Bobby was having his issues, Joe and I were able to continue the conversation, and we were able to go down.
Fine now. Everything's working fine.
Absolutely. Yeah, Paul says here, thanks, Bobby. Those are cool cards. Yeah, and they are historic from the hockey perspective, especially. Those are iconic cards that kind of got the ball rolling. It really did for hockey. It wasn't like hockey wasn't really consistent for a while. It took them a long time to get that level of consistency. And they don't have the back catalog of tobacco cards the way that a baseball does, the caramel cards and all those things. They got some stuff here and there, but it's spotty.
After 1913, there was nothing till 1923.
Yeah. So it's very spotty. Very spotty.
So you're almost 9 years. That's a long time between card issues.
Yeah. Now, I suppose if you are a hardcore collector, though, that does give you, it actually makes your life easier. If you can get your hands on the thing, you build the C55, you build the C56, you get a little bit of a breather. You can tackle some of those other challenges and then get almost into the 30s very quickly.
True.
Doesn't take you too long to get there. And there's some challenging cards there, so some key cards. But that also means the key cards are the key cards. The ones that are the key cards, it's not like you can camouflage. If you want a Ty Cobb from the 1910s,
Good luck.
there's a couple of choices. You don't have to stick to one. But with the hockey, it's like, oh, you want a George Vezina from that year? That's the one.
It's a big one. And it's gone up and up and up. And it's very hard to find. High grade is 4.
Yeah.
4 to 5. That's it. You get 6 or 7. Good luck. They just didn't stand the test of time.
Yeah. So let me grab a couple of these comments here. I can grab the book and double check, but do you remember which one was the oldest set listed that you've got?
Yeah.
Older hockey set.
56.
The C56?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'd be the first one.
1909-10. Yeah. There's other issues, but they're very one-of-a-kind-ish.
Yeah, it might be one of those like multi-sport things where maybe they threw some hockey player in there, something like that.
Well, there's the strip cards from 1908, 07, 06. Yeah. They've never really been defined properly. There's a couple other, but those aren't really card issues. They're more of, how do I say, they're advertising cards.
Yeah.
Those a lot of ones from Europe. There's a lot of, and I don't really document the European stuff. It's so hard to document and what have you. So
yeah, no, that's fair.
There's been some stuff, but I think for official cards, we can say C56 is your first year.
That's fair enough. Paul mentioned this earlier, and I forgot. I had it earlier up on the list of comments. Did you ever see Stephen Harper's book, A Great Game?
I have a signed copy, yes.
Yeah. Did you like the book? I actually have a copy. I haven't gotten around to reading it.
I did. I read it, and I got lost. It mentioned so many things that I didn't know that it was so hard to follow.
Okay.
And I found it very difficult book to read. Very good information. I have to give him that. But I read through it, and I was just going, he just lost me. On every page I was turning, I was going, well, they introduced this guy and this guy. If you have some sort of a little bit of reference, like even the 1910s here, you can sort of remember a few guys, Edward Lalonde, maybe, Ross, but there was nobody you recognized. It was sort of like you're speaking French to me and everything. It's just, who's this guy? Who's this guy? And then you're trying to remember the 15 different names that came before that. It's just like you can't remember. It's very hard to follow.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Great book though. Great research. I have to give him that.
Yeah, that's fair. And one of the things, kind of what Paul mentions here, is that the early days of almost all the professional sports were marred with a lot of randomness. Like it's one of those things where they were building from scratch. there was no background. It's like you're starting from the beginning and being like, okay, we're going to make up the rules as we go along. We're going to play around with this a little bit here and there, and we're going to go through it.
Well, remember there was the Challenge Cup too. So
That's what I mean.
when you won the Stanley Cup, you'd have to go play some other team to challenge them for the cup. And when does it end?
Yeah, exactly.
Once you
So
get around.
it's one of those things, like, you didn't really have organized leagues the way you would expect today. Even at the minor hockey league level, we're infinitely more organized in those days, because it's like, no, they've got leagues and they've got these, they set their rosters and do all this stuff. And it's like, no, in those days, it's like, make it up. All right, you're on this team now. You're on this team now. Go and do that thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Nope, that's a fair comparison. Yeah, I hadn't gotten around to reading it, but I do have a copy, and it's one of those things that's been sitting on the shelf or something. I got to reorganize the shelf. I've been doing a little bit of organizing. I struggle to organize my cards, although
We know that.
I did have a breakthrough this past week. I did have a breakthrough. I got to share this for a second. It's just gonna take a second.
Regale us on your reorganization, please.
All right. So this box here, so this is be a player in the game and leaf. Okay. Strictly that, because it's a succession of the same brand, really. Be a player started with Brian Price to in the game, and then leaf from when Brian Gray took over. So it's still the spiritual successor. It maintains the same lineage.
Yeah.
So this is just those alone.
Wow.
So it's actually semi-sorted. It's all the be a player and in the game is on this on the left side, and on the right side right now it's just leaf. But here's the problem. Here's Leaf's problem in a nutshell. So this is a 1600 count box that's full to capacity. Between here and here is just 2018, 2019 Leaf in the game.
Oh my God.
It's 1 year and one brand. And as I was sorting through it, I actually found some cards that I forgot I had. They're cataloged in the count. They're in the count, and I've got them off the checklist. But I didn't realize that I had a couple of cards where it's a card out of two, and I have both copies. And two of the printing plate 1 of 1s for the same card.
Well, that's good.
But at least it's one box, semi-sorted. So I'm like, okay, great, fine. At least something.
I'm going to take a washer break. I'll be right back.
By all means. All right, so let me grab these comments here. It's Charles. Yeah, Kenora Thistles, underrated hockey story. Fair enough. There were a lot of obscure teams that didn't last later on. Don't forget the time of pure tackle notion of sport being for amateurs and professionals. Yes, agreed. Names of the Lord of the Rings are so bad that they were painting indexes, family trees. Yes, true. That is true. I never got into that world too much, but I do know that it is complex. If you want to follow the lore, you really have to get into it. So that part's very true. All right, guys. So we managed to have a pretty good conversation. We talked about the golden thing. We had a chat on the theory of guides and scarcity and all that. So we got that done. That was good. Now the question I have for you guys is this. Is there anything else you want us to touch on? I wanted to make sure Bobby had a chance, because Bobby had taken the time to build the slides and everything. He had the images, so he put them together for us, which is good. But is there anything else you guys want us to touch on or that? Because otherwise we can wind it down and we'll call it a night, and we'll send everybody off into Monday. So you just kind of have to let me know. So you got a window here while Bobby pops back in to figure out if there's something you want to do. Let me take a look here. Be player 94.95. Yep. Yeah, exactly. 2 pages later, 5.8 comes up. Yep. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah, I can't get into something that requires me to take extensive notes just to follow the point of your story. It's a little too much work for me. I end up reading a lot of nonfiction because of that. It's like, okay, look, at least I'm going to keep track of names. At least they're names. Well, you can always pretend it never happened. Just rearrange your calendar accordingly. Pretend you're in a different time zone. Yeah. Sounds good. All right, so what we'll do then is we'll head into winding it down a little bit here. We'll thank everybody for popping in and joining us. What I'll do, let me quickly refresh this here. So let me do 2 things real quick here for those of you that are around. I think a lot of you already kind of know, and I mentioned it earlier, but I want to make sure I get it in. And I'll make sure next time to throw it at the beginning, not at the end. Makes more sense. I'll quickly throw this on here. I mentioned it already that I've got a podcast version of the live streams. This one, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with. Fortunately, I got a little time. Right now, I've got this thing up to date up until December the 21st. In the next week, I'm going to finish off the end of the year, and we're going to be into 2021. So slowly I'm catching up. I'm doing a couple of episodes a week. But for some of these, I'm starting to get caught up because I want to make sure we get up to date. Now, if we have a lot of extensive audio issues like this, like today's, then I'm going to have to do some work. So it might take me a little while. But once I get caught up, it'll be there because some of the live streams are kind of long. So if you do want to listen to them in kind of that format, it is there. Obviously, the YouTube channel is the best effect. But, hey, it works out. Okay, let me grab these comments here because I see a couple questions. Yep. 1910, they only recorded goals, not assists. Yep. Do you do that point when I say because I'm Carlos? No. The point, I don't know if I think I mentioned the story already, Hawkeye. The point comes from a picture that I took a long time ago, where if you pan it back, it's actually an image that I took in Buffalo, New York. I've given the story another time, and I'll give it later on. But for now, just be aware that it's an image. And once I started using it, I was like, yeah, I'll keep it. Still fun for me. Why not? I'll use it. Let me have some fun with it. But the because I'm Carlos thing, I have explained that one on the podcast before on the show, and it's an old joke from work, and I've used it and I've used it in multiple workplaces, including my current. I have a lot of fun with that, and I've used it on other podcasts too. Yep. Pre-war hockey. Looked up apps that did some eBaying. Yep. Well, Paul, you pretty much summarized it there. We got in all the best of it. I figured Joe would be good to bring on. I asked him to join us. I sent him the link ahead of time, and I said, if you can come by, because I figured Joe's usually pretty good about bringing up some interesting questions. So I figured it'd be a good conversation. It turned out it was really good because Bobby had his technical issues throughout the night. So we were able to still have a good conversation and keep that going, which was nice. It's very good. Perfect. Good stuff. Yep, perfect. So you have heard the origin story. Well, I think around the same episode, probably the origin of the picture was there as well. If not, it would have been right around the same time. But yeah, it's just a picture that I took on a trip when we did a day trip to Buffalo. And long story short, it was an abandoned shop, basically an abandoned pawn shop. And I was pointing at the sign because I thought the sign was funny. And we've since cropped it out, and I've used the cropped version of the image for the channel image, and it served well as the channel logo. Figured no reason to change it. Why not? Joe Malone scored 44 goals in 20 games. Yeah. But mind you, given the era, you can pretty much get away with stuff like that. Like it was a different sport. That's why you can't really compare the eras. It's like, well, they're playing under the rules of the day. That's how that works.
And that is especially a totally different era.
Yeah. Completely different set of rules, different amount of games, different way of playing. Everything different. Mm-hmm. None of it has a real connection to anything resembling the modern game or the 50s game or anything in between.
No, even the 30s is totally different from the 10s. Even the 20s, the 20s are good, but that's sort of the infancy. The 10s are sort of the Wild West.
Yeah.
Challenge Cups, teams that we don't even recognize today, Haley Burrell and, Montreal AAAs, or so many different teams, and they all morphed into, eventually came into the NHL in 1927, and prior to that it was sort of the NHA.
Yeah, exactly. I like this. It's always a good excuse to have some fun with the 80s. I'm sure you've seen how trash the 80s goalies were. Well, you see, that's like I said, I've had an infinite amount of fun. The reality was that Gretzky scored 92 goals, yes. But in the 1980s, I think if you had a pulse, you scored 30 goals. So it's like impressive still, let's be fair. It is impressive, but it's like,
Well, actually, there's another card that comes up as a rookie year. Tom Barrasso in his rookie year, he had 3 cards that were rookie year cards. I think he won the Vezina, he won the Calder, he won not the Calder, the Vezina, and
you talking about that with the Penguins?
Against
was this with the Penguins? Oh, so Barrasso. Okay.
He would be Buffalo.
Oh, Buffalo. That's right.
Yeah. And so he has 3 cards in his rookie year where he set records. Like, his rookie card should get a lot more respect, you would think, as a rookie, because And not only is in hockey is it, it's sort of like baseball. When you have a hitter and then you have a great pitcher, which takes precedence over that. So, and
I
Colby
think it's
to
funny. It's funny you mentioned this point because the next comment from Charles is basically kind of him having his fun with his,
Ellie.
because he always likes pointing about Lindbergh. It's like not even their family loves Lindbergh as much as you do. Keep pitching for it though. Keep pitching for it. It's like you didn't see him play. Let's go to the tapes. In the 1980s, I don't know if anybody was amazing that played gold.
Lindbergh's only known for very much like the Tim Horton story. He died in a car accident and he was drinking. And the one good thing is he donated most of his body, his liver and his lungs and all his kidneys and what have you, his organs. He donated to other people. So
yeah, I like this though. For one season, he was amazing. There you go, perfect. That's fair. Okay, so let's kind of close off on this one. So, what do you think about WHA cards? Are they worth the investment? Investment is a bad word for WHA because but it is because they're cool cards. I like the cards. I think they're cool cards, and I think there are some great players who played in that league, especially for a couple of those years, because you got Bobby Hall, you got Gordie Howe, you got some great players.
Shock Pond, Dave Keon, all the guys came down.
Yeah. So and they provides an affordable entry point for some of those guys if you want to get cards of like a Gordie Howe playing day card, and you want to save a couple bucks and get a nice one. You can get some of these WHA cards or Bobby Hall, and it's really kind of awesome. But I don't know what kind of investment they have, given that it was a defunct league that didn't make it out of the decade.
Well, it was a major league at that time.
It was.
I would have to say. But
Yeah.
The one thing is, I'd like to divide it out this way: is that they're more of the baby boom kind of players that people remember and watching, opposed to anybody from the '80s on, because they morphed into the NHL in '79. The teams that did survive. It was a very sorted league. Some teams were in, the Philadelphia Blazers, and then they changed into Vancouver Blazers the year after. And there was a lot of incoming, outgoing. Ottawa Senators became the Toronto Toros, and it was just a mixed league that was very sorted. So a lot of people have a hard time following and chasing those down. A lot of great stars, yes, but very much of a baby boomer set. I would say.
It created this weird thing where you had this dynamic because Mark Messier played in the WHA, Mike Gardner played in the WHA, Gretzky played in the WHA for season 2. So, but those were the young guys that eventually went to the NHL and had their full careers in the NHL as well. Like the Bobby Halls and the Gordie Howes were guys who had established themselves as stars and then had a second run there. But then there were those guys that were kind of in between. Like I think I want to say Mark Tardif.
Mark Tardif, yeah.
Yeah, who had a great career in the WHA, has started in the NHL, had a great career in the WHA, but it doesn't quite add up. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to kind of factor it in because the WHA was a high octane league because of the nature of it and the way it was, and it's just. But it's almost like could Tardif have been a great player in the NHL? Maybe.
Yes,
it's hard to say.
He would have been, yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. Like he played in that league was a major league for them, and he played and he was prolific offensively in that league, but he missed out on his prime because he was doing it in the WHA. So it's not treated the same way.
Yeah.
But if you take the stats and transfer them over to the NHL, if it had been fully NHL, you would have been like, oh, maybe he's a Hall of Famer. It's same guy, but it's like, what happened? It's like, oh, gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah, it's House League to All-Star kind of thing.
Exactly. But again, there were some great guys. There were some great guys in there.
A lot of guys came down, and Sanderson was there. All the guys came, and they went back up to the NHL because they realized it wasn't the league that people were following.
Yeah, but the thing is, some of those guys were extremely talented in WHA who played there and were extremely talented, and were still extremely talented after. They showed some great capability on both sides of the fence. So it wasn't like, oh, the WHA. It's like, no, there were some great players who were great, who played there, who were great, and then who left and were still great.
It must have been a weird time period because I think the WHA was coming into its own fruition, and a lot of people said, hey, I'm going to go there. I'm not treating well here. I'm going to go there. Let's try it out. Let's see what's happening.
Exactly.
And they tried it out, and they went, it's not getting the publicity that we really need. It's not making me that much more famous or what have you. So they came back up to the NHL. A lot of them did, or tried to.
But it was good for some of those guys because it basically created a free agency where they could be like, well, if you're not going to treat me right,
Bobby Hull,
I'm out of here.
$1 million contract, right?
Because otherwise, he was a made man in Chicago. He could have
Oh,
kept
yeah.
rolling along and
Oh.
he continued to be the made man in Chicago. Like he already had a Hall of Fame career in Chicago before he left for the WHA. Like he was already an elite. If he had played a couple more years and just racked up some more goals in the NHL, and as it was, he was a 600 goal scorer anyway. As it was, without his WHA days.
But no one was offering $1 million at that
Correct.
time. So
Yeah. I can't blame him for doing it. For him, it's like, hey, I can make great money. Why not? Yep, one of those guys in Slapshot played in the WHA. That's right. Absolutely.
oh, yeah.
Mike Louis. Yep. I'm reminded here with Charles's comment defending Lindbergh. You're not going to make fetch happen, Charles. You're not going to make it happen. You can try as hard as you want. Lindbergh was a guy who is an interesting character in history, a notable name, a memorable guy. That's it.
A desirable rookie because he died early. His autograph's worth a lot.
And he was a big fan favorite in Chicago. Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Yeah, Flyers.
He was a big fan favorite, and they're passionate. And they love their players when they are memorable. They do enjoy them, and like he has that memory with that group, and they hold him to that level.
Yes.
But outside of that, like if he hadn't been playing in Philadelphia, if he had been in some random outpost in the NHL and been the exact same guy, no one would remember him.
No.
Nobody would know who the hell he was.
He was a good goalie, though.
I don't doubt that. I think that's 100% true. But it's like he had a cup of coffee. Like it was literally a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Well, he was only in the league for 3-4 years, and then he died. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you're not gonna get all-time credit for that. It's not gonna happen. And as a result, because Charles likes to do it, not underrated. Not underrated in the slightest. Correctly rated. Rated accurately. And 80's goaltending was bad. It was heinously bad. Embarrassingly bad.
I love Palmatier.
That's fair enough. But was the goaltending in general in the league good in the 80s?
Well, I think it kind of aligned itself with the playing as well.
Sure.
Certainly a different time.
Yeah.
Every era, it's like
Agreed.
hard to
Agreed.
compare eras.
But I'll watch some of it and I'll be like, okay, Gretzky, you got 45 minutes to figure out what part of the stick you want to shoot off of. Somebody would have already driven a stick through your head by this point if you tried that stunt right now.
Yeah.
Somebody would have sent you to the 14th row.
Yeah. It was different time, different playing.
Agreed. And it's, like I said, it was fun. And obviously, as you like your high-octane offense, that was the era for you.
It was. Yeah.
Here you go. Yeah, saw Pele play against the Penguins. We torched him. He was good, though. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. If you're one of the Vezina with an 884 save percentage, that's accurate, yes.
And 88% cocaine in his, yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, like I said, I always respect Wayne Gretzky's numbers because they're undeniable. But it's one of those things where he's a guy where don't watch the highlights because it doesn't help. It actually makes things worse. Don't watch it. Don't watch it. Just look at the numbers. The numbers are extremely impressive. Just take it that way. Yeah. All right, sounds good. All right, guys. So, thanks to Joe for hanging out earlier and holding it down with us. Much appreciated. Thank you, Bobby. We were able to get the segment in. We did it. We were able to do it. That was kind of cool. So we were able to get that done. So that was nice.
Yep.
And thanks to those of you hanging out. Hockey Guy Paul, of course. John Sports, Chris Hildetail, and Charles. And, of course, the folks earlier. A lot of you. So there have been a number of you throughout the course of the night. Justin as well. So appreciate you all hanging out and commenting. We had some fun with that as well. We'll let Charles have his moment here. And yeah, Paul Monsieur was very floppy in the style. He played more showman than a goalie. That's just the way it is, man. That was the way the 80s was.
That was entertaining for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you wanted. Yeah. So Paul says, thanks again for the show. Bobby, your segment was cool.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, Paul. Appreciate all of you for hanging out. Paul as well, as always. Thanks, everybody. Have yourselves a great night. Enjoy your Monday and the new week.